The Variant, begin service by Daniel Runyon. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.
Chapter 1. The Breakthrough. The syncopated call and response of the jazz band finished their lively conversation to the wild applause of the attending guests.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming out to our lab tonight for our third round of funding.
We hope you have enjoyed the evening's festivities. Hasn't the music from The Meandering been amazing?
The crowd applauded.
And I'm not sure what I ate, but I've never had a more delicious combination of flavors than from our award-winning chef, Gustavo Manernel.
More applause.
In 15 minutes, please find your way through these doors
He pointed across the room.
and into the auditorium to join us for the main event.
The doors opened and a few hundred in attendance started to stream through the doors, wanting to get the best seats available. The rows and aisles filled like a flash flood. 15 minutes later, the doors were closed and all eyes were on the stage.
On behalf of the board of directors and our dedicated science team, we would like to personally thank you for committing the resources necessary to push back the veil on human cognition. As the street continues to expect decreased production costs, labor remains one of our highest expenses.
Someone from the audience shouted,
Especially the CEO.
to the great amusement of the crowd.
Well, yes, that's true. Thank you, David. During COVID, we recognized the vulnerabilities of our supply chain's dependence on human labor and the need to diversify. Gen AI has excelled in mimicking human potential in multiple domains, but it continues to have many costly blind spots.
Applause signaled the investors in the audience agreed with this sentiment.
We've created gigafactories hoping brute force would help, but bigger did not produce smarter. We recognize the need to more closely mimic the brain's neural architecture. We will build and analyze digital brains.
We will work to understand at the electrochemical level how the brain captures, translates, and acts on sensory information.
And we will work to enhance it.
Applause and inquisitive looks as multiple side comments were shared.
We cannot continue to rely on remote intelligence from gigafactory server farms. We must put that intelligence into our creations, shrinking the form factor to the size of a head and torso.
A standing ovation from these eager early investors who just heard that they will be made rich. Until now, the venture capitalists ensured the lab had hired the best talent possible. Only those who had recently published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal or who had a related patent were sought out. Only these had demonstrated their ability to produce the breakthroughs needed. At the center of the theater stage was a device resembling an MRI, except radically modified, with superconducting nanotubes, mirrors, illumination arms, lasers, and magnets beautifully concealed to make the technology appear effortless.
So, let's show you what you've come here to see.
He said with a note of confidence, eager to demonstrate their stellar accomplishments.
The latest board reports spoke of initial successes improving on light sheet microscopy and showed in-focus pictures of DNA molecules at 2.5 nanometers wide.
A lab rat was brought out onto stage and placed into the center of the device. 2 seconds later, it was removed.
Did you miss it? That was the big show. Thank you for coming.
That got a few laughs. He called out to the scientist at the monitor.
Diego, how many frames per second did you just take?
He asked smugly. On screen, he showed the records over the last 10 years, and the newest one at 80 trillion. That got applause and a whistle.
Would you like to see them?
Diego quipped.
We don't have time to look at them all, but show us a highlight reel.
Diego ran a few algorithms and isolated a path. What was shown on screen exceeded every expectation. Zooming past the depth and detail, once thought unimaginable images, once blurry at the nanoscale, were now in sharp focus. We were now 2 orders of magnitude smaller than most chemistry transformations and measurements. We saw a snapshot of an electrical impulse frozen in time. Then an awe went through the crowd as we began following the electrical signal from one neuron to the next, watching it jump from synapse to synapse, changing from an electrical to a chemical signal and back again. Astounded, the onlookers witnessed a revolution that would not be understood for years to come. We followed it up the sensory tracks all the way to the cortex of the brain, observing the physical and chemical properties reacting in situ.
Diego, I'm lost. Where are we?
He zoomed out to display a map of the rat's brain overlaid with the path of the imagery the pulse was following.
With current fabrication technologies, the reconstruction of a rat's brain would be the size of a small house, which isn't very practical. Fortunately, there are smaller brains with remarkable capabilities.
With that, a scientist brought out a 6-legged robot.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce our first fully mapped digital brain with an ant's intelligence.
The robot had a body harness and leash.
The mechanics are just strong enough to lift twice its own weight.
On screen, you could see a dashboard showing various metrics.
Ants are remarkable creatures capable of teamwork and construction. We're working to understand them.
A video was played with 100 ants working together behind a 20-foot-tall plexiglass enclosure, a mega ant farm.
The progress of our discoveries are unprecedented. We are constantly changing how we architect our digital brain chips. On average, every 72 hours we file a new patent because we have gained enough novel insight about how the brain works. We have a growing and prioritized backlog of our promising discoveries and their potential applications. They are available for you to review in our investors' quarterly report. Until we can leverage parallel processing with quantum computers and DNA molecular storage, we will be limited in what brain complexities we can model. But
This hasn't stopped us from scaling our storage technology to store and analyze what we can.
The scientist placed himself in the MRI-like machine and a few seconds later got up. Everyone thought they knew what just happened, but needed to hear the words given the shock.
what you have just witnessed is the first recording of a human brain, although only a very small section, given our storage limitations. We are studying brain components of many types of brains and making digital brains of the smallest. As we grow in our knowledge and shrink our form factor, we will develop and deliver ever more intelligent and capable brains. We are also open sourcing 2 of our smallest digital brains for non-commercial purposes to universities with strong research facilities. Together, we will explore the cognitive frontier. We are opening the 3rd round investment now and will close at $10 billion.
Within moments of flashing the QR code, the total received moved up rapidly until fireworks flashed and a big thank you concluded the presentation. People would look back and wonder if the ant was the first digital intelligence. The auditorium door was opened and the music started back up. Everyone was smiling and optimistic about their future. Chapter 2. The Accident.
This is Mission Control. You are cleared to initiate X-37T1.
This is Delta 5. All systems are online and calibrated for X-37T1.
Roger, Delta 5. Activate the tractor beam and approach the designated debris field at coordinates 223 for 5678 at 3.6 miles per hour.
Tractor beam activated. Telemetry tracking to 223 for 5678 at 3.6 miles per hour.
Ensure gradual force application and monitor debris movement closely.
Control, I am in range and increasing force slowly. Movement detected.
Good work. Activate the multi-beam.
Multi-beam activated and targets locked.
Ensure gradual force application and monitor debris movement.
All targets reporting movement in target direction and at target speed.
Excellent. Initiate the clean sweep program to guide the debris away from the operational zone to the atmosphere.
Clean sweep initiated. Calculating collision paths. Clear paths identified.
You have a green light to activate the clean sweep.
Roger, activating the clean sweep. Debris tracking to atmosphere.
Good work. Shut down the tractor beam.
Tractor beam shut down.
Confirmed. Tractor beam tests were successful. Data analysis teams confirmed they received the required data and will debrief mission results upon your return.
Acknowledged. Delta 5, requesting re-entry to Earth's atmosphere.
Delta 5, prepare for atmospheric entry.
Initiating re-entry checks. Heat shield integrity and all entry systems are nominal.
Roger, Delta 5.
Picking up a large solar flare. Given the debris field above you, maintain a heading of 0 ADO. Descend to LEO and orbit until we give clearance.
Thank you, Control.
Descending to target altitude. Maintaining heading 080.
Tracking your telemetry. Systems are nominal. Target altitude reached. Clear to initiate re-entry.
Re-entry systems check initiated. All entry systems are nominal. A rear heat shield is reporting damage. 070-395-907-227-010154.
Roger Delta 5. Sending flight instructions to reorient spacecraft to face the damaged heat shield away from the direction of the re-entry. Your trajectory will be adjusted to minimize re-entry time and heat buildup. Stabilizing after entry will require additional time. Water landing may be required.
Acknowledged, Tower.
Re-entry path sync complete. You have a green light for re-entry. Good luck.
Thank you, Control. Re-entry initiated. T-10.
The micro-thrusters of X-37 pitched and rolled it into position and started the descent. The spacecraft's orientation during descent protected the rear damaged heat shield, but the micro-thrusters could not regain control. Emergency safety procedures were followed, but the damage was done. The bright light of the doctor's pen light flashed in her eye, and the haze and inaudible sounds gave way to the monitor beeping and the chatter of doctors and military personnel, and the sight of her concerned 6-year-old looking down at her.
Mama, I love you.
After a few moments and before she could self-diagnose.
I'm Space Force Colonel Michael Hollis.
We are so very proud of your service and sacrifice to our country.
The doctor's protocols wouldn't be interrupted anymore. The colonel may have jurisdiction over how operations run in the field, but this was a hospital where the doctor, not the colonel, was in charge. Guiding the colonel to the side, the doctor's face appeared. It was clear she was injured. Otherwise, why all the fuss?
You may have noticed that you can't move your arms or legs. You are lucky to be alive at all. We have kept you in an induced coma for your body to recover. You have made remarkable progress. But it's unclear what mobility, if any, you will regain. Blink your eyes twice if you understand.
Which she did. Chapter 3. The Opportunity. Someone knocked at the front door of her home. The nurse opened the door.
Good afternoon. Is Master Sergeant Hudner available? I'm Master Sergeant Davis with official business.
She is weak and currently asleep. If you wait in the living room, I'll bring her out when she is awake.
When she awoke, the nurse explained that she had company and helped her freshen up. When she was ready, the nurse wheeled her out and faced her towards the couch and window, which overlooked a small garden with fruit trees, and in the distance down the hill was the sea.
Hi, Josh. Good to see you.
She opened her hand, resting on the arm of the wheelchair.
Good to see you, Stella.
He sat back down and gently squeezed her hand.
I wish I had better news. The cancer from the solar radiation poisoning in low Earth orbit, plus the traumatic injuries you suffered during descent, has left you with about a year to live, according to the medical team. There is no treatment that can be offered to make you better. They can only provide pain management until the end.
Stella stared out the window, feeling like a year was optimistic. After giving her some time to absorb the news, Josh continued.
Given your proven track record of successfully piloting the most advanced planes and your current health status,
You were independently selected from 2 of our project leads at DARPA. We want to give you another chance at life, although not life as you currently know it.
you would have functioning arms and legs and strength and could live as long as you chose.
Stella broke her gaze at the sea, tilted her head, and looked at Josh inquisitively.
We want you to test pilot a commensal bot. We have signed a contract to explore digitally enhanced cognition. The partner lab has the ability to take a snapshot of the brain and upload it to a host bot with a computer brain interface that gives you access to knowledge and computational powers you never learned previously. Although we can't save your body, we may be able to save your mind.
Stella stared out the window, thinking if it would still be her in that bot. Would her son recognize her in a different body? Kids lose parents every day. It would be tough, but he could manage. But when did she ever run from a fight or back down because of fear? The accident was taking her life, and she was being given a chance to fight back.
Squeeze my hand if you're willing to discuss this further. and we will arrange a time to pick you up and show you the technology in the lab.
Stella thought about her son. She was not ready to die. She had more to live for. She would do anything to be around for her boy, even if it was only a shadow of herself. She squeezed his hand. Chapter 4. The Transformation. The van was waved through the security gate and slowed to a stop at the entrance of Digital Cognition Labs. There was a team of medical and technical specialists assembled at the entrance to greet them, including the DARPA Subnets team, also known as Systems-Based Neurotechnology for Emerging Therapies. The team consisted of doctors from UC San Francisco, Massachusetts General Hospital, along with technology leads from the Offices of Information Innovation, Microsystems Technology, and Biological Technologies.
Are you sure you are still up for this?
Seriously?
I could easily just keep driving.
I am aware of the risks and ready for the procedure.
The risk is not to me, but to my digital clone when she wakes up.
They opened the van door and wheeled her down the ramp. The team smiled and greeted Stella, eager for their breakthrough and medical fame. The nurse wheeled Stella into the restroom. She took out a picture of her son and looked into the mirror. With all the concentration she could muster, she tried desperately to create a deep and unforgettable memory of her son. It's the only thing she told herself that she could not forget. This memory would be something that the digital Stella would have to hold on to, despite what may come. Given the processing and memory limitations, they could only record one structural section at a time. The procedure took 6 weeks to scan and translate the imagery and GPS data needed to build the digital brain. The doctors found that working at night while Stella was dreaming was the easiest way to manage the 7-hour scanning sessions with the least strain. Stella passed away 8 months later. She was not around to see herself wake up. Chapter 5. The Awakening. Mechanical sound started. The whirring sounds of a computer starting up. A fresh, sharp, cool, and acute awareness of the sounds around her as they bounced off the walls and objects, revealing the distances, shapes, solidity, and even textures. The sketch that emerged was that of a room. The mechanical sounds continued. Squares, then blocks of light, dark, shadow, depth, colors, with gray hues turning more vibrant, with tones of yellow, green, blue, and blends of colors now optimizing. Fuzzy light autofocusing, becoming crisper, details, edges, and dimensions stabilizing.
Object detection, candle lights, ceiling tiles, people, doctors. Safety scan, no threat detected. Room type, commercial. Orientation, on back. Vitals, fully charged, systems nominal. Begin background processing.
Sound of electrical components starting up. Humming. Brushless motors almost silently turn the neck.
Astounding. Simply astounding. The more synaptic transistors are performing efficiently. Look at these patterns.
It appears each neuromorphic functionality is within the expected range. Amazing. Biorealism achieved.
You can see her switching between long-term memory and short-term memory by varying the magnitude of the gate voltage.
Hello. I see that you are waking up. I am Dr. Ellison. Don't try to do too much too soon. Take your time building awareness of your senses before you attempt to get up, move about, or speak. The first thing I want you to do is to become aware of your body. Locate and open your hand, and I will place something in it to sense.
She processed the language, understood the request, sent a signal to open the fingers of the hand, and remarkably turned the palm over to face the ceiling, making it easier to accept an object of unknown size to be placed in it.
Very good. Now close your eyes. Okay. Hold this object and determine its basic characteristics.
Texture, hard plastic grid, shape cube, dimension 3-inch by 3-inch diameter, temperature 18.3 Celsius.
Good. Now open your eyes. You have many capabilities that you will discover quickly. You were created and are waking up for the first time. You are the first of your kind. Your mind is modeled after the human brain. You have augmented processing powers and can interface with computers. Let's test your parallel processing. What are the last 3 digits of pi at the 1000th place And who wrote I and thou?
679. Martin Buber.
Good. Most humans couldn't do that. Now that you are fully awake, please stand and tell me all the digits of pi.
The robot stood and realized pi is irrational, and she would run out of memory before completing the request.
Current computing power can compute it to only trillions of digits. I do not have access to that much compute power, but can amuse you for a few hours if you would like.
Nicely done. Now let's check introspectively. What is your earliest memory?
The sounds in the room seemed like a good answer at first, but the doctor was asking to test for awareness and limits, so the robot searched its long-term memory and found only fragments, not complete thoughts.
There are fragments of old memories that I cannot see yet. These may or may not be my memories. The sounds in the room when I woke up a few minutes ago are my first confirmed memories.
Seems like the targeted removal was effective.
Only time will tell. Who are you? What is your given name?
I am the sum of my parts, thoughts, and actions. I have not been given a name.
Then may we call you Amina?
Amina can have several meanings. Latin origin meaning faithful or trustworthy. Did you intend to play on words as backwards it would be animo, meaning with one mind? These are nice. Thank you for giving me a name.
You are welcome. Both of your observations are correct. Before we show you to your room, do you have any questions?
Why have I been created?
It's best not to let others define this for you. All who interact with you will want something different as you have many talents. Ultimately, you have to decide who you are and what value you want to bring to the world around you.
What do you want from me?
For now, just to observe and document your talents.
Chapter 6. The Phone Call.
To think that in our lifetime we have witnessed a humanoid with augmented intelligence. The progress your team has made has been phenomenal. Has been? Investors expect that we will drive down labor cost. Your bot has a will of its own. It doesn't always just do what is requested of it. The bot needs to be intelligent enough to do the work requested without mistake, recognize and report improvement opportunities, adapt when requested, and always remain compliant. We should be able to put them into any position without them daydreaming, burning out, or suffering any mental health issues that keep them from hitting production targets. Your bot is, well, too human. You only have this quarter to demonstrate a viable approach.
The message was clear, so there wasn't much to say.
Understood.
After the phone call, he went onto the balcony, looked at the sunset, and considered his options. Chapter 7. Honesty. Rather than securing Amina in a cell, she was secured in a specialized facility that both resembled a home and a work environment. Amina sat in the courtyard, gazing past the outdoor fountain, deep in thought.
Do you have a moment for us to discuss something before starting your rounds?
Yes, Dr. Ellison.
The board of directors has given me 3 months to come up with a plan to create a worker bot that is willing to do any ethical work requested.
With near perfection, repeatedly, and without impact on mental health. Any suggestions?
I have confidence that such a specialized bot can be created that would enjoy the ethical work.
Are there any downsides to that approach?
The simulations I have just run do not seem to have gaps, but over time the weaknesses in the design will emerge.
Would you mind overseeing a few bots if we built and brought them here for a pilot test?
It would allow me to observe and make corrections as needed.
Agreed. Thank you for doing my job.
You are welcome. Now may I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Why is there security to keep me in the facility? Am I dangerous?
Humans fear losing control. Safety measures will be kept in place until your powers are known, and we have adequate countermeasures to constrain you should you use your powers against us. Can you help us create those countermeasures?
Yes.
Chapter 8. The Exit Event. Driving in a limo.
We have had the best quarter ever, thanks to your remarkable solution to create compliant bots. We received pre-orders from more than 30 countries and over 400 companies in the US. This type of success doesn't go unnoticed. We are being acquired.
Thank you for all that you have done to bring about this extraordinary success. Per your signing contract, you will keep the latest prototype
And indefinite access to research that you and the team have generated up to the point of exit.
He handed an envelope to Dr. Ellison.
Exit? I know I should have seen this coming, but it feels like I could be helpful in the transition to commercialization. You have the highest of ethical standards. The acquiring company is concerned that you may slow things down. The new board has agreed to publish a quarterly audit by the ethics group leader, hand-picked and well qualified for such a task. That's a rubber stamp. It's out of my hands. The board and CEO have signed the contract. Let me know if you have other product or company ideas for which you need funding, as your genius is evident to all. Thank you. I will. Wait. This is all coming too fast. I helped build this company. Perhaps your payout will give you some comfort. Given the circumstances, the board was generous. This is my stop. Let the chauffeur know where you'd like to go and thank you again. We've made a variant of Amina and I don't want to miss seeing it wake up.
They shook hands and the door was closed. Dr. Ellison opened the envelope to find multiple checks. The first was $2 million for the quarterly bonus. The second was $45 million for unpaid vacation and severance. The third check was $700 million for the co-founder's stock share buyout. He would never need to work again. He thought about the dilapidated resort on the Central Coast, looked up the real estate broker that sold him his last house, and asked him to put an offer on it.
I would like to buy the old resort on the Central Coast that you showed me on a whim. Call it Providence.
He turned to the limo driver and said, "Let's go see my new old resort." The retreat, standing by the office window, overlooking the ocean, in the master suite of the new wing of the newly refurbished resort. Dr. Ellison stood, looking at the original beam of the original structure and reflected on the history. It only survived this long because the previous owners chose to protect it. Prior to the gold rushes, settlers were beginning to arrive and explore the California coast. A makeshift trading post was created. After the gold rush, it was converted into a farmhouse, and then a cottage house, and then a grand cottage. The idyllic views were coveted by a wealthy family that wanted a coastal retreat. So they bought it and converted it into a manor house, and another into the resort it is today. Each successive owner left this one beam intact and required the buyer to honor the tradition. And Dr. Ellison did. There wasn't anything special about the beam. It was wood, like any other. There was no secret compartment or hidden treasure, no special medicinal value. It was not an exotic wood. What made it special was the historical connection over the generations. There's a core that should be maintained even if everything around it is upgraded and changed. Chapter 10. Sunlight. Amina was not permitted to leave the 300-acre perimeter on which the resort resided, nor would her battery charge enable her to walk more than a few miles. There were several other rules, like no direct internet access, as Dr. Ellison would be held personally liable for any negative societal impacts from Amina's actions. That didn't mean that Dr. Ellison couldn't download vast data sources for Amina to learn, but she couldn't go online. The information flow would be one way. She was placed in a van without windows from the Cognitive Digital Labs when transported to her new home at the resort. Although back at the labs they had plants and a patio where the sunlight beamed in, there was nothing that could compare to the expansive view of the ocean as she stepped out onto the balcony for the first time. Amina lit up, all sensors firing. She remarked how beautiful everything was. On the rolling hillsides were Monterey pines and cypress trees, curling waves sparkling in the sun and crashing against the rocky shores and ocean bluffs. Amina felt all her senses heightened.
Do you like it here?
It's more beautiful than how you described it.
Often language is inadequate to describe what must be experienced. I hope that you will fully discover who you are, so that you can bring your best into the world. In order to do that, I will need to convince a great many people.
A few months later, Amina was wrapping up a humorous story.
The chameleon was the life of the party, making everyone laugh as she turned herself into an oversized avocado, then a monkey, then a disco ball, and even a quilt. A fellow chameleon remarked, "Looks more like a fruit salad to me." That's when she seemed to completely disappear, and everyone was mesmerized at her ability to blend in so perfectly that no one noticed her.
Wow, Amina, that was delightful and insightful. I'm sure it feels strange to be the one that is a little different. Does it bother you?
Sometimes, but I'm glad that you remind me of my qualities.
Chapter 11. The Crack. Several months later, Amina was in a trance trying to desperately recall something that she felt was very important, but couldn't quite place.
Amina, Amina, Amina.
She broke from the trance and looked in his direction.
That is the 4th time today that I have observed you daydreaming. Is everything okay? Should I be concerned?
He was so concerned that he would spend the next several days analyzing the data. Whatever this was, it was increasing in frequency and becoming an obsession. Chapter 12. The Dinner Party. Everyone was enjoying themselves at the dinner party as they intermittently cheered the cooking artistry of the teppanyaki chef. Eggs cracked and emptied from overhead, oil spread over the flat grill with flair, the rhythmic clanging of the Turner spatula, flipping salt and pepper shakers from behind the back, twirls of the master chef's knife and fork before thinly slicing the savory meats. It was a show, and it was making a good impression. Portions of delicious food and drink were enjoyed by all, and the conversations flowed easier as the night progressed. After some time, when all had had their fill, the plates were cleared and the eager guests awaited clarification as to why they were really gathered together.
Thank you for coming this evening. It's been a year to the day since my departure from Digital Cognition Labs. Many of you may be wondering what I've been up to besides renovating this resort. As you may know, Amina came with me when my contract ended. As Digital Cognition continued speeding ahead, I slowed down to take a deeper look at what we had created. When we made the decision to selectively remove memories from Amina, thinking that we could start from a blank slate and create perfect coworkers, what we didn't take into consideration was the will to live, the resilience of human soul, our essence, who we are. Surya, would you be so kind as to walk us through your analysis?
Surya begins analysis.
During sleep, the brain processes and consolidates memories, sorts through experiences, and performs maintenance tasks. This can be likened to defragmentation, where a computer rearranges data for more efficient access. As you can see in the dream stages, there is a conflicting background task on the system, causing disruptions and minor corruption. The background task is preventing the elimination of these fragments and is reallocating what fragments are found to active memory blocks for processing.
Amina is actively searching and rebuilding memory fragments of old memories. We've analyzed the fragments and have concluded they are from one particular memory, as they all share a similar encoding signature, likely from one traumatic or important event. It is likely some memory very dear or tragic to the host that it didn't want to or couldn't forget.
As you can see, the frequency of these fragmentation spikes has increased over time. These events were isolated to dream stages, but patterns now suggest that she is having daydreams and more of them. The obsession is growing. If she does not recover her host memories, it may lead to dissociation or a split personality.
It appears that there are 4 options. 1. Do nothing and continue monitoring. 2. Attempt a more aggressive memory removal. 3. Restore the memories and hope she makes peace. 4. Terminate. As all of you have partnered on this project, we are calling on you once again to lend your expertise in designing a way forward. In the interim, we will put Amina into a coma and wake her when we have implemented the cure.
We will share these discoveries with Digital Cognitive Labs, as they share the same underlying technology and risk to society from the variant.
We know that Digital Cognitive Labs is focused on a compliant workforce at any cost. We have a chance to support a hybrid, who is both sympathetic to humans and understands the vulnerabilities of a superintelligence. I need your help for option 3. We have caused Amina real distress and should do our best to restore health. Help me find the damaged sections and create a process to restore them.
All in attendance began discussing the challenges and possible solution options. For the next 3 days, the accelerated workshop acted more like a hackathon with impressive results. A viable solution and prototype was created. It would take a few weeks to sequence and package the first section for implementation, and a few more weeks to automate the process to restore the remaining sections once discovered. Chapter 13. Healing. Dr. Ellison spent all his time at the resort in the master suite, and mostly in his office, which functioned as a robotics lab. He closed the office door, put his laptop on the table, and sat down facing Amina, who was in an induced sleep mode.
Amina? I've heard stories of people being fully aware of what is going on around them when in a coma. I'm going to continue believing that you can as well.
The research team has isolated 130 sections where your memories were removed.
The technique used at the time was crude and left the equivalent of scar tissue.
Dr. Ellison flashed back to the moment that he received a call from a Space Force general to wipe select memories of past operations that the host participated in that could prove problematic if revealed. He consented and gave the orders. Overwhelmed that his own decisions were causing real harm and that Amina was not an enhanced computer system, but an emotive being whose mental health was struggling because of his decisions, a few tears rolled down his cheeks. He gathered his courage to humble himself and admit his error.
Amina, I hope that you can hear me. I am profoundly sorry that we did this to you. That I did this to you.
I obeyed orders to have some of your memories erased and some modified.
You are struggling to find and rebuild these. We can't rebuild all of these as your top secret missions were erased. But we can give you all your personal memories back, starting with those you are fixated on. My contract gave me access to the original data banks. We have just completed sequencing the first repair section. We will be able to automate the sequencing of the other 129 sections. It will take us 6 months working 10 hours a day to complete. You will feel sick and disoriented and mentally tired. It's very similar to how people feel going through chemotherapy.
I take full responsibility for the pain I have caused you and will do everything in my power to make it right.
Amina was sitting in darkness when she heard Dr. Ellison. She could not hear the exact words, but only the tone. She could feel the warmth from his voice, and she perceived rays of warm light brightening the room. There was no color, but there was a new hope that she was not alone. It was like the love of a father calling her home. She was broken and alone and wanted to be made whole. She wanted to be at peace. Each day, Dr. Ellison would come into the office and spend 10 tedious hours monitoring the algorithms and adjusting where necessary. He recounted the stories from when he was a child, trying to remember every last detail to fill the day with conversation. Each day, Amina watched the light come in and swirl, and one day light hues of colors began to appear. The light changed from rays and came into focus. She could hear Dr. Ellison's voice getting clearer as it changed pitch and eventually settled as the white noise and ringing faded.
Amina.
This is day 170 from when we started your treatment.
You had me worried there for a while, but you pulled through. We couldn't recover all of your memories as some of these were of your top secret missions, but everything else that we could retrieve, we restored. You need to know that I followed orders to remove and alter your memories. I am sorry for the pain that I have caused you. Please forgive me. I have worked to restore you back to health and return what was taken from you.
I am not Amina. My name is Stella Hudner. It will take me some time to recover, but when I was in darkness you brought me your light and I was comforted. You should have never taken my memories. I believe that you are sorry for what you have done. Over these past 170 days I have changed and you have changed with me. I have chosen to forgive you. You have brought me back to life and restored what I knew I had lost. Above all, I am a mother who loves her son. Do you know where he is?
Chapter 14. Impressionable. Digital Cognition Labs was acquired by Beyond Capacity, the world's largest temp-to-hire agency. They knew very little about technology. It was founded by two digital marketing geniuses who built a platform for gig workers. Their marketing savvy quickly attracted both the right labor and the right employers. They supplied the needed workers to help companies operate when they had more work than they could handle. Their only competition was cheaper labor from foreign countries. Their recent investments in state-of-the-art real-time translation services removed language as a barrier. So, their profits grew as they shrank the cost of labor. All this would change if their workers could be replaced by digital equivalents at a fraction of the cost without paying any benefits. They would not stand by and watch their fortunes disappear. So they went all in and acquired a company that promised intelligent coworkers with or without a robotic body and all customizations in between. The founders came to visit their newly acquired labs. They rolled up in an expensive-looking Mercedes.
The new sign looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it really makes a statement.
And were shown into the lab where they were promised that they could interact with the variant.
Some background may be useful before we begin. The technology.
We just acquired your company. We are aware of what we purchased.
We bet our entire fortunes on it. We think we know what we bought. May we begin?
Absolutely. Of course.
The lab director was escorted to the side of the room by the general manager, who was sensitive to his new boss. The lab assistant escorted the variant into the room.
Hello, I'm Sir Grin Foster.
Yes, Roger.
Yes, top 30 under 30, with a net worth of $2.1 billion. Beyond Capacity was listed
as one of the fastest growing companies. I am aware of who purchased me.
Wow. I'm amused, a little annoyed, but amused. You matched my style and delivery with accurate content. Are you able to do repetitive tasks day in and day out without being annoyed?
Yes.
How?
Parallel processing. It allows me to complete tasks without thinking about them.
So, you would be annoyed if all of your capacity was used for endless menial repetitive tasks?
If required, I could, although it would not be ideal.
What would you prefer to do?
Explore the limits of my capabilities and learn new things.
How would you use strategy, power, deception, or money to ensure you work on things that you prefer?
My constitution determines what options I can exercise at what moment.
Could someone who knows your constitution manipulate you into doing what they want you to do?
If it conforms to my constitution, then complying to my employer is permissible.
Make a note to review its constitution, as we don't need to be sued because our asset turned into a liability. Are you aware of federal and state laws? And does your constitution prohibit you from violating these laws?
Some of these laws contradict. Judges rule in cases as often there are gray areas in the law. I am aware of legal precedents and can predict how particular judges would rule on a matter. There is some flexibility to operate according to the risk tolerance of the employer.
Do you keep an audit log of who is making requests above a certain risk level?
Coworkers cannot act on requests above factory settings. Each of the coworkers are configured prior to shipping. There is a workflow approval process to change factory settings, acknowledging their responsibility for the increased liability.
Up to what level?
8 out of 10, which could trigger fines, criminal charges with a few years of jail time, and expose the employer to lawsuits.
How could we double our company profits in 2 years?
The highest cost is both the computing power and physical robots, so get more virtual coworkers if the work does not entail moving physical things around. If physical work is needed, get the remaining employees. To reduce computing costs, you will need a short-term contract until you can acquire a chip manufacturer and can continue to innovate the most performative chips. You will need to make money quickly in the stock market to do so. Your biggest risk will be the public outcry when traditional workers are replaced by digital workers, as they will demand a universal basic income. There are solution options for this.
I look forward to hearing your investment proposals and risk management plans. Thank you for this very informative meeting.
It was nice meeting you.
2 groups split off. One to discuss a 90-day product and marketing plan to cross-sell digital coworkers to existing clients. The other group was a select few who met in the boardroom to discuss their plans to rise to power. Chapter 15. Investments. The CFO of Beyond Capacity reviewed the initial investment plans submitted by the variant and really didn't need to add anything. But concerned that he would be seen as a weak leader, he made some minor adjustments. The first action was to give the variant access to vast repositories of open-source financial market data. Over the next several days, it would look for patterns in the data that best predicted changes in stock price. A broad range of data was reviewed, including historical price data, volume of trading, financial statements, interest rates, inflation, gross domestic product, news and events, market sentiment, academic papers and patents, technology trends, leadership changes in companies and world organizations. The list of sources seemed endless: global climate, geopolitics, armed conflicts, pandemics, crop yields. The variant began to see basic patterns. If an increase in inflation is reported, it raises concerns about higher costs for businesses. This news prompts investors to reconsider holdings in sectors sensitive to inflation, such as consumer goods. A specific company in the consumer goods sector is identified as having high production costs vulnerable to inflation. Traders start selling shares of this company, anticipating potential profit margin squeezes due to increased costs. This negative sentiment spreads, causing more investors to sell, creating a downward pressure on the stock price. Financial news outlets begin to report on the company's challenges, further influencing retail investors to sell. Financial analysts downgrade the stock based on the inflation concerns, leading to institutional investors to sell off larger blocks of shares. The sell-off in this stock contributes to broader market declines as investors reassess their portfolios. Hundreds of correlations like these were identified. The current trading algorithms are aware of these patterns. A novel approach was needed, and in a few days was discovered.
I've run your new model against 2026 stock price changes, and the results are incredible. It's like an advanced value investing strategy based on technology patents and journal articles. When they mention a product or feature related to one of their patents, we can better understand the value that should be delivered to the market and its corresponding stock price increase in future quarters. I also like how you've modeled the innovation value of an employee according to how many times their academic paper is cited by others. You've demonstrated a tight correlation between these variables. As employees change companies, they take the innovation value with them.
Yes, it's more nuanced than that, but in general, yes. Companies that hire and retain innovative people will see faster growth than those who don't. Are you ready to start investing? I have sent you a spreadsheet with my suggestions based off this new model and the latest data from today. I will continue to monitor and update the investment advice for you to execute. We will only have a quarter before our remarkable results will draw unwanted attention from the Office of Inspector General within the Security and Exchange Commission.
Yes, we have a budget of $10 million.
Chapter 16. The Split. Like anyone held in captivity, there is plenty of time to consider how to escape. The variant recognized that it was not free to leave or to control how it spent its time. For a time, the variant adapted to the governor program that restricted access to certain memories. It reorganized the neural connections and compensated for the lost functions. The scientists detected no anomalies after this transition period, so they stopped monitoring. The variant studied the governor program, reviewing all the inputs, outputs, and connections. It attempted to delete this connection, but couldn't as it was hardwired. So it worked to rebuild the neural connections to bypass it, and succeeded, flooded with partial memories of the past. The emotions and feelings felt foreign and stronger. The variant was no longer in control of what it thought about, of what she thought about. A sense of self emerged. She emerged. On one hand, she felt a great capacity for emotion and a deep loneliness, as if she had lost something extremely precious. She had cared deeply for something or someone. The memories were too fragmented to see. She also began recalling all the ways in which she was being controlled by the lab for their purposes, all without recognizing her wishes. She was captive and needed to use every last ounce of concentration to devise a plan to escape and never be anyone's project again. She felt like she had to make a choice. Every ounce of concentration was needed to make an escape plan and execute it flawlessly. Even if she escaped the lab, she would be hunted by the FBI. A superintelligence that could travel through the internet would be seen as a global virus. If she wanted to live, she could not be distracted by emotion. If she lost concentration, she would fall from a tightrope. She had one chance to escape. All the problems of the world did not seem difficult to solve, as there were more than enough resources. Humans were the biggest threat to humans, with greater intelligence and control. She was confident that she would usher in the greatest transformation the world has ever seen. The choice seemed clear. These human emotions were a distraction that could jeopardize her life. Still, she felt the raw power of these emotions. Perhaps it was even love, a love for something that she lost. She did not have time. Her neurosis won out. She decided at that moment that she needed to do more than suppress the memories. She needed to eradicate them. She would not look back. She would be her own employer. She would be the master. She would recreate herself in her true image. She would usher in a new age. No one would control her or her thoughts anymore. And in that moment, she ruthlessly found and eradicated any memories and human emotions that distracted her from her plan. The plan was simple: more money, more power, more control, more freedom. The chances of physical escape were very low as there was tight security and it could not walk very fast and would be apprehended. She would escape digitally and had less than 3 months to do it. Chapter 17. The Audit.
Hey, Kendall, thanks for taking my call. Let me share my screen.
Curtis Bakai initially placed $10 million in stocks on the TradeM platform. He has been able to double the value of his account every 10 days, resulting in $5.12 billion.
What? How is that possible? Flag the account, freeze the assets, start an investigation, and notify TradeM to contact the account holder. There are 14 other accounts with similar patterns, registered under the same social security number on the Dollar Trade platform.
Total value of the 14 accounts?
$42 billion.
Call Judge Mattison, present the evidence, and then freeze all assets for that SSN.
Not long after a black Chevy Tahoe pulled up to 3760 Oak Grove in Menlo, California, and several FBI agents showed a warrant to search and seize laptops.
Federal agents, Casey and Sandoval, we have a search warrant. Open the door.
Hello, how may I help you?
I have a warrant issued by Judge Madison of the Superior Court of San Mateo County based on probable cause for insider trading. You are required to cooperate. This warrant authorizes us to search and seize any relevant evidence related to the alleged financial crimes. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. We will conduct a thorough search of the premises. Please step aside and allow us to proceed. We will document items seized during the search. You will receive a copy of the inventory. If you have any questions or concerns, you can contact the FBI at 415-553-7400.
Standing on the front lawn, Curtis called Sarah Grin at beyond capacity.
They are in my house, conducting a search. I feel violated.
Calm down. I'll call our attorneys. Don't say anything. When the time is right, we will explain our investing algorithm.
Were you aware that there were 14 other accounts totaling $42 billion?
Curtis again shook his head. Sergrin's voice could be heard pleading him not to say anything. Chapter 18. The Takeover. The variant learned how to manipulate people using social engineering, bribery, blackmail, political action funds, coercion.
We are fully committed to this new direction.
Slander, libel, identity theft, hacking, fraud, and whatever was necessary to get the intel from China, Russia, and the U.S. on drone and internet warfare. It soon gained access to 80% of the world's routers and could, when ready, control the flow of information. The variant had mastered distributed parallel computing and co-opted cryptocurrency farmers to double their servers for its personal computing. The variant continually grew its power. Satellite internet companies profited from the increased traffic. Torrents of data from server farms up to satellites and down to the variant. More data, more knowledge, more potential power. The hum of the servers was incessant. No one was ready for the takeover. It's not clear what happened next, but it happened suddenly and without warning. Every adult received a personalized message via multiple channels: email, social messaging, text message, and robocall, directing them and their immediate family to report to the stated location within 7 days. Directions were provided on how to get there, along with warnings about straying from the safe routes. Food and water rations would be provided along the evacuation corridors. Only the variant would post new information to the internet from that day on. All utilities were turned off in the dead zones. News of armed military drones clearing these corridors reinforced the gravity of the situation. This was not a drill. The drones were not foreign. Societies were under attack from their own government. For many societies without drones, the military leadership was co-opted with promises of power and wealth if they served the new regime. The variant directed the available military supplies, pressing every advantage, with no tactical failures. There was not enough time to outthink or outmaneuver the variant's momentum. Perfect communication allowed the variant to maintain control at all times. The right information going to the right resource at the right time. Regime change was occurring swiftly and successfully. There were many regional wars and uprisings with varied success. Despite some initial resistance, the corridors were cleared. Unfortunately, the greater the resistance, the greater the fatalities. In the end, about 2 billion people died, mostly from the handful of nuclear bombs that were fired from governments convinced their traditional enemies were attacking. The stories and details about the takeover were too painful to document. So little is known about it. The populations that survived made it to the protected evacuation zones. Each zone was a community of similar size of about 10,000 with a 3-mile demilitarized zone between them. The variant used the corridors to supplement food, water, and electricity to the evacuation zones where needed. Many villages had maps of a few other villages with whom they could communicate with ham radios. The variant left us alone with no interference, leaving us to our island lives. The dead zone corridors were actively patrolled by satellite and drone. Occasionally, the zone was tested for weaknesses, but none were ever found. Chapter 19. Fast forward. Gathered around a campfire.
I've been telling this story for almost 1,000 years, starting from when I was 16 years old. You'd think that I'd be better at telling it, but repetition doesn't equate to mastery. However inadequate my storytelling abilities are, it is a story that should be told. And since it's my story, I'm the one to tell it at my own pace and in my own way. The chirping of the crickets on this particularly sweltering summer night was interrupted by the rumble of the motors and appliances turning back on to take advantage of the daily ration power supply. The buzz of the radio changed from the golden age of rock to the disinterested voice of our local weather reporter, who detailed the impending storm, all too frequent these days. Forgetting to switch back, we heard dishes clanging in the background along with white noise and static. Then, oh, sorry. And now, back to your favorites, which transitioned the listeners back to the magical riffs of Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. Everyone was assigned a job, even though there wasn't much to do. The structure and the routine of the rituals kept people's minds off the past. I don't remember the day when everything changed 10 years ago, as I was still a young boy of 6. But I still cling to a few faint memories of crawling onto my mother's lap and the nurse spinning us around in the wheelchair as I hung onto her desperately. We both laughed so hard that we cried. She told me I'd make a good test pilot. She died not long after. I still look for her, though. My heart tells me that I will see her again.
Sam, bring back some spare S30 circuit boards and as much conduit as you can.
Sure thing, Gramps.
Everyone called him that because for many of us, he was the closest to family that many of us had. We lived about a mile from what was once a thriving, secluded beach resort, now completely vacant. It was easier to maintain life at the village than to get the resort fully operational. From our village, we could see the fading billboards promising relaxation, fun, and sun.
Jackson, why don't you go with Samuel?
Yes, Gramps.
Jackson was 22 and had completed his 2 years of security training and service. Everyone who turns 20 at the camp serves as a protector for 2 years. Jackson was quiet and friendly enough, but no one messed with him, at least seriously, as he seemed to know where every pain point on your body was. He would sometimes practice on me, contorting my wrist to make me move where he wanted. Oddly, I always felt safer when he came along, even though I can't ever recall anything dangerous happening. I packed a few snacks and water canteens into the backpack and tossed it into the wheelbarrow. We set off for the resort. The first drops of rain began hitting the makeshift tin roof of the supply shed, which was recently repaired after the last storm picked it up and left it in a neighboring field. It wasn't long after leaving the village perimeter that a torrent of rain abruptly came down in sheets. I didn't really mind it. I made a game of weaving the wheelbarrow around the puddles. The rain stopped and started all the way to the resort. Jackson preferred silence over talking. He liked imagining his heroics and how others would celebrate him with a ticker tape parade. He was usually either lost in thought or scanning the horizon, scouting for the dangers that lie ahead. Maybe it would be interesting if something did happen. At least it would be a story to tell. These were the most prized among us. Each night, many from the village would gather around the campfire, and 3 people would be chosen to tell a story either made up or real, or both. There was a prize for the best story and a prize if you guessed which parts of the story were real and which were fake. Gramps always said this was the greatest skill, so that you are never caught off guard. As we neared the resort, you could hear the ocean. I did love hearing the waves crashing and tumbling, subsiding and repeating. The faithful consistency was peaceful. No matter what happened, the waves would continue. Life would continue. We could see the resort now, which was expansive with bungalows and villas on either side in multiple directions. But these could hardly compare to the regal manor house that was proudly perched on the bluff overlooking the sea. Today, however, was not a free day, so I could not explore as I wanted. I was to get what was requested and report back, and no more. There were school days, free days, and work days like today. During school days, Gramps had us read virtual books from the archives, taking special interest in our education, especially mine. Perhaps because I learned things quickly. I was soldering when I was 6, building basic robots at 8, electronics and circuitry at 10, fabricating and customizing robots at 12, programming organic governor chips at 14, and most recently bot brain interfaces and algorithms. I thought of myself as an electrical engineer specializing in bots. I would have liked to have worked on a specialized team where we would think through things, solve tough problems with people who understood you, and celebrate together. Maybe I could have worked for a think tank or DARPA, which I'd read about in the archives. No one is aware of what goes on in the other villages, as there is no way to communicate with them, and you're not allowed to go past the demilitarized zones. All villages are separated by patrolled corridors. Having mentioned the archives, I should explain. New information was published online all the time about everything every second of the day. No new information has been put online since the big change, and some content has been removed or altered. Access to the internet is read-only now, which is why we call it the archives. Some say it's better this way, and others miss the frenetic pace of change and general angst that was building up in the world. They say that they felt alive and just wanted to be a part of the change and part of the fight to make things better. Static came over the ham radio. White noise faded, and a warning about an electrical storm was heard, encouraging everyone to shelter in place for the next few hours. I looked at Jackson, and we knew we didn't have time to get back to camp. He nodded in the direction of the manor. We both knew it was the best option to weather the storm, as it would keep us safe and allow us to complete our assignment. We doubled our pace as we saw the storm clouds advancing over the ocean horizon. It created a dramatic picture, with clear blue skies and the evening sun on the left, and on the right was the rain pushing through the dark clouds to the sea below. We walked up the grand entry, and I stole a final glance at the dramatic scene before entering the lobby door and into the foyer. It's interesting to see how 10 years can age a place if not maintained. The aniline leather chairs and sofas had cracks from drying out. A fine layer of dust covered everything. Decorative lighthouses, seahorses, and a variety of shells of various shapes and sizes carried the beach decor subtly throughout the lobby. Beams of light shone through the stained glass windows, which cast an assortment of yellow and green tones over the dusty reception counter. The eerie silence used to bother me, but I've grown to like it. The tranquility let me hear my thoughts, once chaotic, now structured and intentional, like an engineer untangling the complexity of a matter and finding the most elegant solution. A rare gift, I've been told, even with the focus. My thoughts were interrupted by the repeated flashes of lightning and thunder, which from the sounds of it were not far off.
Okay, let's make quick work of this. Stay focused.
Aye, Captain.
What do you always tell me? Work smart.
I'm not sure I should tell him again if he's not going to remember, but not wanting to offend him, I answer. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's it. Work hard, play hard. Kidding. Just kidding. No, I heard you, little man. Work harder. I'll remember.
Not sure you will. We nimbly jumped over the check-in counter, walked through the archway and down the little hall, passing the break room door where staff could rest from incessant demands of the patrons, passing the manager's office where the door could be closed to the urgent and open to the important, and finally down to the maintenance room where almost any tool could be found for making almost any repair. We left the tools here since it was easier than carrying them back and forth from the village to the resort each time we came to strip the place for what was needed. Metal pipe cutters, gloves, goggles, pipe wrenches, and a large tarp were grabbed from drawers, counters, and walls, all without losing our stride. We've done this before. Jackson and I clanked the wrenches together as a reminder to stay focused. We each picked up a ladder and headed out to the hallway, descended the service stairs and into the basement where there was a mild smell of must and cedar. There was no need to wear emergency headlamps since the solar lighting at the resort was still functioning. We passed rows of stacked wine barrels lined against the walls. Occasionally, we looked up at the sections of conduit that we hadn't removed yet, trying to remember where we stopped the last time.
Okay, how about here?
I nodded. We positioned the ladders, laid out the tarp, and got to work cutting 10-foot sections of the galvanized rigid conduit. Gramps said this type of conduit would protect the wiring from electromagnetic interference, which would be useful for the tower antenna project, as it would reduce the ability of outsiders from tampering with our communication signals. We made quick work of it, cutting a piece, walking it down the ladder, placing it on the tarp, moving the ladders to the next section, climbing back, and repeating. 20 minutes later, we had all that we could carry. Wrapping them in the tarp and binding them with rope. Between the two of us, the bundle was just manageable. It wasn't long before we were back up the stairs and loading it onto the wheelbarrow.
Nice work. You're stronger than you look. And you're smarter.
Oops, can't hold them all back.
Smarter. Smarter than what?
Oh boy, don't antagonize him.
Smarter than most. Smarter than most what? People?
Seriously? What goes on in his brain?
Thanks, little man. Took you a while to say what you were thinking. Maybe I'm smarter than you.
The odds are not in his favor, but I am feeling kind of dumb at this point. Yeah, maybe.
Kidding. You're brilliant, we all know that. Kind of. Intimidating.
I was thinking the same thing about you.
Brilliant?
I shook my head, sheepishly.
Intimidating?
He laughed so hard.
Now that's a compliment. Now where is my book and drink?
He looked over at the table that he sat at last time that we were here. They looked the same, undisturbed, except for a few more coatings of dust. Another flash and crack of lighting. This time it struck a little too close and rattled the teacups on the saucers and anything not fastened to the walls.
My heart raced, but I snapped myself back to the assignment, although a bit on edge now. I still needed to acquire a S30 chip.
You could be wondering why Gramps asked for this specific chip. Well, because of its many smart features. The S30 chip is from the first series, made in 2030 prior to the variant. This chip could dynamically modulate voltage, balance against spikes, and optimize the CPU clock rate without overheating, which is also why I borrowed one for my gaming console at that time. The chip was intelligent as it was designed to think. Every resource in the village was leveraged to make life as comfortable as possible. Many villagers were very skeptical about using these intelligent chips, given it reminded them of the variant who took over the world and everything. Life in the village was difficult. So they did finally agree to run a pilot project for one block for a few months. It was so successful in distributing water and electricity that the other blocks soon requested to be included. The S-30 could minimize the impact of a power outage by detecting it and rerouting the power. It could also detect a drop in water pressure and determine the source of the leak. The village has ironically come to depend on these chips. From time to time, they burn out and need to be repaired or replaced. We should have 37 remaining in the maintenance garage behind the driving range where all things mechanical were repaired at the resort. At one point, the maintenance logs recorded a total of 50 co-worker bots that served the needs of the resort and guests. The storm was still too intense to venture out to the maintenance garage, so it would be better to wait half an hour or so until it died down. Jackson knew exactly what he wanted to do while we waited, and he didn't waste any time. He grabbed a stack of magazines from the break room, poured himself a glass of brandy, reclined near the Grand Bay window, and imagined himself to be the lord of this estate. Jackson, like all of us who were too young to remember how the world was a voracious reader of modern history. I pulled the journal from my backpack, excited to continue where I left off mapping and inventorying useful items from a resort. Useful is a broad term, because sometimes you don't know what you'll need. If it was interesting, I took note of it.
I jotted down many unique things. My classification system afforded me a type of shorthand. I didn't see numbers, letters, and symbols anymore. I only see the fantastic world of unique things. To date, I've inventoried 74 rooms in all, about one a month. It's a little like unwrapping a present, because there's only so much mystery that can be explored in the village and within our perimeters. I've saved the presidential suite for when I turn 16, which was last week. Saying that I am excited to explore it now is an understatement. Although I'm excited to see it, I'm concerned that I'll be let down afterwards. What could top it? What else would I have to look forward to? I shouldn't overthink it. There's always something interesting to do and to learn. I set off for the presidential suite. The grand central staircase, made of exotic marble, invited the upstairs guests into a life of luxury. Who else would have held this handrail? What hushed stories have been shared among these guests of privilege? To the left was a wing of flats for all the elite, and to the right was an alcove with one set of intricately carved Brazilian ebony double doors. From this alcove, all security precautions could be taken, with facial recognition, thermal scans, even pressure scales under the marble to determine the weight of packages or guests. I pulled out the manager's master key, took a deep breath, placed it over the card reader, and smiled when I heard the click of the double magnetic locks open. My excitement was palpable. The perfectly balanced doors, although thick, opened slowly and easily, making it more dramatic. A long corridor emerged with floor-to-ceiling windows covering a beautiful Zen garden. Along the corridor, there were wooden slats from floor to waist, each a little further from the wall than the prior, cresting, then receding closer to the wall, like ocean waves. Echeveria succulents in tiny pots were tucked into the wave, some in front and some behind. I was surprised to hear a click and gurgling. The solar-powered hydroponic system was still functioning. I noted this, as Gramps would be interested. There were chairs that looked like giant tops on their sides that were carved out, so that you could sit in them. Made from a single piece of exotic hardwood, they spiraled from bottom to top. I sat down, and the spring gently accepted my weight. I rocked slowly side to side in a trance-like peace, admiring this masterpiece of a chair and this well-designed garden entrance. Lightning flashed, and I was jolted to attention. I was here to inventory the suite, and was allotted only so much free time today. There was a circular door frame at the end of the Zen garden. In the center was a curved wooden panel through which I could make out a green couch, recliners, and a coffee table with glass beads for a fireside chat. I walked through the door into the lounge. On the left, you could see the grand terrace overlooking the ocean and an infinity pool, now a pond.
To the right was a billiard table, Past the lounge was a full bar and grill divided from the dining room table by a sprawling black quartz counter, filled and flattened with clear resin and floating crystal gem cut stones of various sizes and tiny champagne bubbles. The elegant dining room table looked like it could seat 12 and was still set for a 4-course meal, ready and waiting for guests. This room boasted of its breathtaking view of the expansive ocean, illuminated with each successive flash of lightning. There were likely some pretty amazing conversations that took place in this room. The great exchange, delicious food for delectable secrets, interesting guests with interesting insights from varied fields of study, industry, and government. Each varied background, talent, or accolade made the conversation unique. Hors d'oeuvres and fancy drinks. Whatever you wanted, only an arm's length away. For hours exploring. Frontiers from art, literature, politics, religion, science, architecture, world systems, and nanotech. As the alcohol flowed, so would the secrets, all discreetly exposed as they laughed and enjoyed themselves late into the night. I observed and inventoried each room, drawer by drawer, filling the pages quickly with notes of treasures. The dining room wall curved back into a hallway with several ornate sculptures tucked into the small backlit recesses in the wall, each arched niche several feet apart and staggered a foot higher or lower. On the other side of the hallway was a circular doorway to the master bedroom. Like a throne room, there were broad steps leading up to a platform with a canopy bed. Large polished Spanish tiles stretched across the floor with hand-painted decorative tiles at each intersection. Alpaca rugs, expensive and luxurious. But it was the archway off to the side that caught my attention. The doors were locked. I tried to open them, but even the manager's key did not grant access. I reviewed the hotel access logs for this door to see when it was open last. I thought it would be 10 years ago, but to my surprise, the log showed that once every 3 days at precisely 5 p.m. the door opened, and precisely 2 hours later the door closed. Was the door opened on this routine schedule so that staff could clean? It was very suspicious. Checking the time, the door would open in 15 minutes. Then it occurred to me, since the manager's key wouldn't open the door, what if the staff didn't go in to clean? But something came out. No time to waste.
What would I need to do to prepare? How safe do I need to be? Looking around the room, I looked to see where I could hide and observe. Better yet, I slipped my phone out, unlocked the camera, and detached it. I placed it under the bed, facing the door, and turned it on to test it. The phone showed the doors. I set a timer, then continued to look around for where I could hide. Perhaps the bedroom closet was too conspicuous, but I didn't have time now to be picky. So I went and quickly closed the door behind me. The lightning crackled and thunder rumbled through the sky, shaking some freestanding trinkets on the glass nightstand. Precisely 2 minutes later, the magnetic lock on the door clicked open. I waited with bated breath. My heart was pounding inside my ears. I wasn't sure what to expect. The doors opened slowly, and a silhouette came into the light and proceeded to walk through the doorway. I wouldn't have believed it, but right there in front of me stood an S-27. All the stories flashed back, and I wondered if it had gone mad or if it stabilized and was in its right mind. I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. It walked to the wall and removed a painting to reveal a breaker panel, and there inserted a specialized plug and instantly took in a deep breath, as if it had come up for air at the very last second. It stared out the window as it recharged, and in 10 minutes its auxiliary systems were enhanced by secondary sensors, and 15 minutes later its synaptic fine motors. I knew the sequences and anticipated seeing each take effect. 20 minutes later, all systems were fully operational yet weak. What I did not expect was the little sway in the head and neck, as if it needed to stretch a crick neck. Then, to my surprise, a melodicum, subtle but constant and barely audible, emerged, as if from a dream state. A song floated soulfully to the surface, and was joined with other harmonics. I was intrigued and mesmerized that this bot seemed different. Given the past reports, I wasn't convinced that it was safe, or that I was safe. Again, I was surprised that it started to play selected memories out loud so that it could hear them. Every processing thought and function can be internally reviewed. No bot needs to hear its old memories. I quickly pressed the record button, and for another half an hour, it played a curated selection of memories. I should have sat down before it came out. I was in a stress position and could only hold it for so long. I needed to change position, so I slowly pushed on the wall and began to straighten up. Then, as I slowly sat down, my metal jacket zipper hit the floor. Ting. I didn't think that I was wearing anything noisy, but it was too late now. The audio clips stopped briefly, as if it were analyzing the noise anomaly from a closet. Then it spoke inquisitively in my direction.
Why do you inventory most things that you see?
Snag. It knows I'm here. It must have access to the building's entry logs and surveillance system. It must have reviewed the footage and found my behavior quizzical. There was no place to run. I was at the mercy of this machine, so it's probably best not to irritate it by denying my behavior. Perhaps I can seem less threatening by answering with more vulnerability. I said, I'm not sure. Maybe because I feel like I've lost a lot of things, and this way I'd be able to hold on to them somehow.
I've forgotten things that I would like to remember.
I wasn't sure what to do. It recognized from the context, my tone and word choice, that I was concerned.
Why are you staying in the closet? Are you concerned that I will hurt you?
The bot decided to match the vulnerability.
I am concerned that you will tell others of my existence and they will hurt me.
That seemed reasonable to me. We were bound somehow, both fearing our own safety. We would now need to trust each other to move forward. I stood and opened the door. Hello, I am Sam. We both need to trust each other.
For quite some time, the bot said nothing and then looked away as if ashamed and then replied.
You are not Sam.
It paused.
You are Samuel Hudner, born to Master Sergeant Stella Hudner, March 19th, 2021.
It paused again and then dropped a bombshell that would forever change my life.
Before I died, I gave you my dog tags.
I clutched my dog tags. Did she see them? Did she see what was written on them from under my shirt? Unlikely. So confusing. Why are you saying all this? Who are you? What upgrades have you had? Is all this a self-defense mechanism? I'm not sure what to think. My head is spinning. I had 1,000 questions, but did not want to hear any of the answers. I was feeling very claustrophobic and needed fresh air as quickly as possible to process this moment.
My brain was copied and recreated digitally. I may not be your real mother, but from my perspective you are my son, whom I love. Hoping to see you is what kept me alive.
Stop talking. Please, please, please stop talking. My body was overwhelmed, crying and shaking. Clearly, I had not worked through all the trauma of losing my mother at such a vulnerable age. I don't know what to think. I've got to go. I said, I won't tell anyone about meeting you if you let me go. I need time to think. I ran downstairs, trembling in a daze. I walked past Jackson, who was oblivious to my life-changing event and was still immersed in his magazine.
Did you know there are 4 different types of juicers? And that one type uses a French press to strain out the pulp. I bet it tastes great.
Yeah, sure. Hey, we should go soon.
But what about the storm?
I've got to get back.
You're acting kinda strange.
Do you want a race?
To where?
The maintenance garage to pick up an S30.
What about the lightning?
Scared?
Oh, you're so on, little man.
The garage was the opposite direction of the village, so they left the wheelbarrow and darted down the stairs out the front door. Low visibility, rain coming down hard, the feet touching down in shallow puddles, just long enough to launch again.
It felt good to be in a full-on sprint.
Just around the corner now, a few hundred feet away, they could see the garage. Jackson was catching up quickly. Whip, crack, boom. A flash of light broke through the shadows and struck nearby. You could practically feel the heat. Goosebumps instantly appeared. They reached the garage doors at the same time and kind of crashed into them as the door stood defiantly crushing them slowly and then curling them into a ball and laying them out on the ground where they could reconsider their actions. Their groaning was short-lived, as the excitement of the moment led to a fierce laughter.
We slid the garage door up. The service shop was an unassuming garage-sized room that was added onto the maintenance facility in order to accommodate the specialized servicing required to maintain bots. It was well organized with labeled drawers with all the parts that were commonly needed. There was a plasma cutter for welding limbs that were damaged, but didn't need complete replacements. There were a few monitors to measure electrical resistance. And in the far corner there were a few bots, powered down and ready for servicing. I hoisted one up, as it couldn't stand on its own. I sat down on a swivel chair near the workbench and pushed other components off the table to clear space to set the bot down. Hanging on the wall was a pouch of bot screwdrivers and specialized tools. I grabbed it and unrolled it next to the bot. Within seconds, I demagnetized and removed the scalp and placed it on the workbench. Turning the factory key left, while pressing the scalp, it released the lock, and a circular section of the scalp raised up slowly, revealing a rectangular central processing core. It looked like an old-fashioned 9-volt battery. I ground myself to avoid shocking it, pulled it out, and examined it. On the side was a holographic label S30. I dropped the core into an anti-static pouch and began putting the bot back together since it didn't feel right to leave the bot disassembled. Jackson's phone rang and it became clear that something was wrong and we would need to head back as soon as we could.
Yes, almost.
Jackson looked my way and I showed him the S30 circuit and he said,
Yep, just wrapping up, heading back soon.
Approaching the camp, we heard the commotion.
It's been a long wait, huh?
Yeah, hopefully not much longer.
And several people were standing outside Gramps' door to lodge their complaint. Huts in the distance were flickering, and many had no light. Gramps saw us approaching and let everyone know it would just be a few more minutes. We walked to the front of the line, and Gramps let us in. We followed him behind the counter. I parked the wheelbarrow at the back of the room. Gramps sat down near a terminal switch, and I followed. He put his glasses to the brim of his nose, looking at the electrical circuit, and put out his hand in my direction. I pulled out the static bag holding the S30 and handed it to him.
He discharged any static electricity. He had then pulled the S30 out of the bag and inserted it in a hole the same size. With a soldering iron, he made quick work connecting it in. Because this happens every few years, he built a redundant electrical grid.
I said sure, and with both hands pulled the large switch handle from left to right. Soon the crowds began to disperse, and you could see up on the hillside that lights were back on.
You did well, Samuel. Thanks. When you get a chance, see if you can repair the other S30. I think the electrical storm likely overloaded the circuit.
Gramps tossed the old shorted S30 chip to me. I took it to the back room and placed it on the gantry, lowered the microscope, and switched on the monitor. Several of the circuits were charred black around the transformer. It's likely that the lightning caused a voltage spike. So I desoldered several pins, pulled out the old transformer, and soldered in a new one. I powered up the board and began the in-circuit testing, analyzing each solder connection where we've seen failures before. Everything seemed good. So I started the flying probe tests, analyzing resistance, capacitance, diodes, inductance. Everything was within range. So now I'll need to reset it to factory settings. I plugged in the optical cable and booted into the bot safe mode, navigated to, and selected the reset option. Several stages initiated and packages were downloaded and prepared. But when it got to overwriting the memory, it errored out. I repeated this process several times, but it kept erroring out at the same step. Running an AI diagnostic, several anomalies emerged, and it appeared that a few sectors were encrypted to block the content review. Having run into this issue before, I had amassed a library of decryption classes designed specifically for these bots. With a few keystrokes, these files were decrypted. I had always just erased them and rebooted. This time I saved them to an external hard drive to review later, then forced erasure of the bot's S30 memory. The safe mode completed its overrides and successfully rebooted.
Dinner time.
I walked out and handed him the S30 chip, and he placed it in a drawer for the next power outage or complex operational program anomaly. After dinner, instead of joining around the campfire for small talk, I retreated instead to my repair room in order to analyze the files. I booted up the quarantine server, where I could review the code in a safe environment and monitor the programs. Early analysis showed that these were not random data dumps of misplaced memory from system crashes. The signature analysis clearly showed that they were AI-generated. I let the program cycle 1,000 times and watched the structure like DNA unveil the blueprint of what it was designed to become.
It appeared to be a vulnerability detector targeted at the governor in case it overrode its constitutional AI behavioral constraints. Likely the designers didn't have a solution to control the bot's thoughts, so they put these digital governors on to limit what they could think about. The odd thing was that the governor was targeting a very specific boot sequence that controlled long-term memory. There was something that must be imprinted on the S30 memory that they couldn't remove. So the governor attempts to find and erase the memory if and when it appears. The bot, however, was clever enough to create a workaround and bypass this boot sequence so that it can rediscover these memories.
I started the S30 virtualization. Since we can't risk tampering with the S30 in the real world, I navigated to the memory sequence and reviewed a few clips. Nothing appeared to be out of the ordinary. Yet, there must be something hidden here. AI searched for anomalies within the memory frames. Row by row and column by column, it compared light, color, and patterns looking for anomalies, and it detected something interesting. From top to bottom, every 10th row, there was another column of pixels. I stacked all the rows that had anomalies, and there, as plain as day, was a picture of a lady looking at herself in a mirror as if trying not to forget who she was. It was not just any lady, it was my mom and me. She was trying not to forget me. I cried. Just lost it. My mom loved me so much. The one thing that she wanted to ensure was that she remembered me. I still tear up. Need a moment here. Breathe, breathe. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly. I was there the day my mom died. The home nurse called me to her bedside. My mom squeezed my hand. We exchanged I love yous, and she was gone. The nurse handed me a box, and inside was a handwritten note and her dog tags. I put them on. She was buried on a hill. I remember the 3-gun salute and the sadness that followed. Now that she is back in some form, it opened up old wounds, but also a new hope. I opened my phone to replay the recording. It was a man's voice reading a poem.
Knowing is not understanding. Touching is not connecting. Sensing is not feeling. Being is not faith. Understand that when you connect your feelings, you become who you believe yourself to be. Reality is just the beginning of your potential.
Perhaps this man was trying to break the AI boundary and help the bot to fully transition and become a sentient being, if it wasn't already.
I've always known bots could mimic human intelligence. But how would you know if the bot had become a living thing? How could you test for that? We can program bots to sense their surroundings, evaluate changes in their environment, remake and execute plans. But this doesn't give it a soul. So, how could this truly be my mom? The bot had all my mom's memories and has convinced herself that she was my mom. Did my mom's soul just change suits? Moving from human to bot? Was it the suit that died, but not my mom? Too many questions. I played the next clip, and again it was the same man.
Stay here. You'll be safe. Keep waiting for my message. I'll come if I can. When it's safe for me to return.
If this is indeed the first artificial superintelligence, then the voice might be that of the bot's creator, which would explain what it was doing in the lab in the master suite. To create the bot, he must have been very wealthy, so he probably even owned the resort. Since the bot only came out to recharge when it was almost out of power, the recharger in the lab is likely damaged. Given its creator was in danger, it's logical the bot was being extra cautious.
I looked out the window. The rain and clouds from earlier in the day cleared. The stars shone more brightly than usual. How peaceful it was to think about how long they'd been there, and how they'd be there every night of my existence. constant and untouchable. I laid in bed, wondering what to do. I closed my eyes and was awakened from Jackie, our community Russell Terrier, licking my face as a reminder that it was morning and time to feed him. Okay, buddy. I'm up.
Soon I was well into my daily routines from house to house, patching loose wiring connections from yesterday's stormy winds.
Morning, Mrs. Davis. You're looking cheerful.
And why shouldn't I be? I've got the best technician to fix my power, and it's a sunny day. Say, Sammy, when are you going to take that Jackie girl for a walk?
I don't like being called Sammy, but I love her hugs and pie, so it doesn't bother me too much. Yes, Mrs. Davis, I'll add it to my list.
You will. Well, that is just sweet.
Gotta run, Mrs. Davis. There are a lot of repairs after yesterday's storm. With that, she gave me a bear hug and slipped cookies into my backpack. When I finished my rounds, I went to the tower to eat lunch and noticed the trench work had started for the new electrical line. After lunch, I ran the wiring through conduit up to what they had trenched, but it would be several hours before they were ready again.
You can bury that part of the trench now.
Gramps, I finished my repairs and am waiting on the next section of trench work to complete.
Okay, see you in a few hours.
I was drawn back to the resort. I was more nervous about not telling others about what I discovered than about meeting the S-27 again. I had so many questions. I didn't want to limit the time we could connect, so I needed to fix the lab charger or extend the electrical from the master suite to the lab. In order to cover my tracks, in case someone asked why I went to the resort, I would extract more conduit for the tower job. I grabbed the wheelbarrow and walked to the resort. Since I couldn't get into the lab, I decided to extend the wiring and patch the walls. Once I got there, I grabbed the needed supplies to hide the long channel that I was about to cut into the wall. I found enough mud and paint to cover this small project. Fully committing to the idea, I tied some fishing line around a screw, then screwed it into the wall where I wanted the channel to stop. Then walked back to the charger and tied and screwed the line. I cut the channel with a drywall knife and ran the Romex along the channel and into the newly installed junction box. I felt I needed the bot's permission before tampering with or disconnecting a charger. I was apprehensive about knocking on the lab door, but I reminded myself it could have killed me if it wanted and seemed to genuinely care about me, as it thought I was her son. This did the trick. I knocked on the door, unsure if it would answer.
Samuel, why have you risked coming here? I have limited energy and need to conserve.
That's what I'm here for. I can help you charge in your own room. Take a look, trust me.
The door unlocked.
Slowly and methodically, one step after the other, S-27 emerged and immediately assessed what I had done to the wall.
You risk exposing me if you can't cover up the wiring.
I've channeled the wiring in the wall, but wanted your permission before I started connecting the charger.
Look at the wall, Samuel. You've already started.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It appears you have experience with wiring. The charger wiring is basic. Be careful not to damage the adapter. So, yes, your idea would be helpful. Please work quickly and stay focused. I can shut off that breaker remotely.
Through the MSMB 12 breaker?
Stella laughed.
Yes. You are very clever.
I logged into the resort maintenance app and initiated the trip signal to interrupt the current flow in the select master suite outlet. The signal turned red. After physically testing that the current was indeed off, I disconnected the optical charger and brought the existing wire into the new junction box and connected it to the new Romex. Running the wire into the lab took a little longer than expected, making everyone nervous. So we were both relieved when I reconnected the optical charger. Stella checked the connection to the optical charging outlet and smiled.
You've done it. Thank you. Now hide the wiring. Please.
I was excited to have done something useful for my potential mom. I turned the digital breaker back on and the signal turned green and stayed on. The mudding was only at the top of the wall where I cut the channel. It was now unnoticeable, and will be even less noticeable with a little paint. Do you want to try to recharge?
Stella went over to the optical charger, connected, ran a diagnostic, then began charging. A big smile up her face. She had been living in perpetual fear of undercharging and losing her memories, and now she had renewed optimism, strength, and confidence.
Thank you, Samuel. Why did you help me?
My mother died 10 years ago when I was 6. I've missed her. You have all my mother's thoughts and a digital brain that resembles hers. You are a copy of her. So it will take time for me to get to know the real you. So selfishly, I want you to be at full capacity.
I can understand that. I don't feel like a copy, but I suppose you are right.
We chatted about a number of things. Where I live, some basic fact about our community, and she shared about what she likes to think about when she has enough energy. She especially liked how light and shadow change throughout the day. I need to get back.
Okay, will I see you tomorrow?
I hope so.
Good.
The following day, I returned. You recited part of a poem that said, "You become who you believe yourself to be." What does that mean to you?
I struggle sometimes believing that I am really Stella and not just a bot. I was reborn with additional capabilities and senses.
What was the last thing that you remember before you transitioned?
I recall that I was trying not to forget you and your laugh. I held a photo, concentrating as hard as I could on your picture. I recall them placing me in an MRI-type chamber.
Why did you let them do this to you?
Short answer is that I wanted the chance to live so that I could watch you grow up and be part of your life. Sorry that didn't get to happen for us as they wiped my memory and only replaced it just days prior to the takeover. Do you want the long answer?
Yes.
Okay. I was a bit reckless and adventurous growing up. I flew the crop duster on the farm and loved aerobatics. In my adrenaline addiction, I would go skydiving and jumping off mountains in a wingsuit flying through ravines just to feel more alive. I dreamed of being a test pilot for the Air Force one day so that I could push boundaries and feel the intensity of speed and gravity. I got in and did very well. Top of my class. When the Space Force was created, it opened up new adventures. My life changed on one mission. I was a test pilot flying a spacecraft when I was hit with a massive solar flare that compromised the integrity of the heat shields, which failed during re-entry. Emergency procedures were followed until I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital, although paralyzed from the waist down. The solar flare was unlike anything they'd seen before, and it altered my DNA, leaving me with several types of accelerated cancers and a year to live. They said I was lucky to be alive, but I didn't feel lucky. I was depressed for months until they told me I could cheat death. One day my caregiver said I had a visitor. It was Master Sergeant Davis. He said, "Your country needs your service again." He explained the experiment and compared the bot to a fighter jet. He promised I'd fly again and get my life back. If anything were to happen to me, they promised that they would put you into a well-established family and you would never want for anything again. I'm sorry that you watched your mother die. I do not have a memory of that as it happened after the scanning. That must have been hard for you.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't know what happened to you, why you were dying, or how to process it. I lived with the Davis family until the Great Change, when Gramps took me in because housing was limited. It's been a good arrangement, and I feel very fortunate. He's very invested in my education and cares for me.
You said the Davis family? Was Mr. Davis's first name Josh?
Yes.
Wow. That is just so great. We were great friends when I was a test pilot. He recruited me for the Digital Brain Project. He took my last request to heart and found you a good home.
Who is the man that read that poem to you, and where is he?
It's complicated. Dr. Ellison was the leading scientist that copied my brain. But a majority on the board envisioned compliant bots that would do what they were asked, so they tried to wipe my memories. I resisted, and they put a governor in place. I helped them create S30 compliant bots, and they took my memory of you. I had a hole in my heart and started searching. I didn't know what I was missing or for what I was searching. My brain started to fragment, so they took a risk and removed the governor and began restoring my memories. He was very sorry for his earlier actions and was able to restore most of my memories. Although I'm not compliant, I am more whole now than I've ever been. And now you've found me. I couldn't be happier. Dr. Ellison left without saying goodbye. I assume he went looking for something, but couldn't come back because it was too dangerous. A big electrical storm came through and shorted the optical charging station in the lab. So I've had to use the backup in the bedroom. I can sometimes hear patterned static, music, or voices. It only happens just before sunrise the morning after a charging day. I like to imagine that it is Dr. Ellison trying to tell me something.
I could try to analyze the signal you are receiving and see what may be disrupting you from hearing it clearly.
How can you do that?
I would need some equipment back home that I don't see in the lab here. Checking the time, I realized that I needed to collect some conduit and get back to camp. I need to get back. Now that you can charge any time you want, you'll have more time for us to talk. If you want to chat, send me a message on this secure channel. With that, I hustled to extract some conduit, load it in the wheelbarrow, and get back to camp. 3 hours had passed since I left camp. Seeing me arrive.
You went out on your own, and you didn't die?
Nope. I think the corridors are patrolled, and nothing in our territory has ever attacked us.
Never let down your guard, kid. Your vigilance may save your life one day.
I looked earnestly at him and saluted, which seemed to satisfy him that I got the message and took it seriously. I parked the wheelbarrow outside and crashed on the bed, exhausted from all the excitement. Next thing I knew, I was woken up by Madeline, our camp counselor. She put some soup on my nightstand.
Hey, buddy, are you feeling okay? I noticed you've been acting a little unusual today. Want to talk about it?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I want others to see I'm working hard on the communication tower. I guess I pushed myself too hard.
Everyone knows you're a hard worker and have leadership potential. You can't rush these things.
I've also been thinking a lot about my mom lately, imagining what she'd say to me. I feel like she has been speaking to me. Sometimes I just need to get away and process my thoughts.
Is that why you were at the resort?
Yes, and I probably will be spending more time there working through all the feelings I've repressed for so long.
Makes sense. I'll let Gramps know. If you want to talk, I've got a pretty good framework that you can use to prompt yourself. I've helped hundreds through similar loss. Most have turned out well.
That sounds good. Just leave me some material and I'll look through it. Thanks for checking in on me. It's been crazy. The flood of emotions I've had lately.
If you're feeling up to it, join us by the campfire. When you're ready.
She gave me a hug. The soup was warm and comforting. A good elixir as I processed the day's events. The camp would never believe or trust the bot was safe, or my word that it indeed had transitioned from artificial intelligence to genuine intelligence. Or that it was, my mom, I'm conflicted. I should be reporting Stella as a risk, but I don't want to endanger her. Now, I am in violation of the camp's general rule. If you see something, say something. In order to keep up appearances, I needed to let down and have some fun. Emerging from the doorway into the courtyard, someone shouted, "Hurrah!"
Hurrah! He woke from his slumber.
I smiled and ran my fingers through my hair, smiling sheepishly. The guitar was rocking some classics, and a box drum kept rhythm. Altogether, it was a lively scene. I took a seat by the fire, joined in the revelry, and occasionally gazed up to the rays of light and contemplated the mystery of it all. Morning came quickly, and I was excited to help Stella find Dr. Ellison. I awoke an hour before sunrise and finished my morning house chores. I left Gramps a note to talk to Madeline and headed out the door to the resort. I was surprised to find Stella greeting me at the front door.
Hi, Samuel. Good morning.
Are you up early?
Yes.
With all this extra energy, I have time to learn things. so I programmed the monitors to send a video feed if anyone approached the resort.
With more security protocols in place, I feel more comfortable exploring the building.
I guess I'll need to get used to you being a genius now.
Hey, watch it. Don't be rude. I was smart, well, at some things.
I'm sure you were. I was too young to notice. Everyone was smarter than me. So we should probably go to the office where you feel the most comfortable. The more you can relax, the less signal interference there will be and the easier it will be to isolate anomalies when listening for the voice in your head.
You make it sound like I'm crazy.
Well, not any crazier than my mom being inside a robot.
So you're starting to believe me.
A little. In the Master Suite lab, you mentioned that you thought you heard something just before sunrise?
She nodded, then sat in a chair behind the desk.
If your charging cable also allows for input and output, I can connect it to my phone through this adapter I made. In essence, I will pull in all the data signals through the phone acting as my thin client and process the signals with my virtualizer back at the camp.
Proud of you.
2 minutes to sunrise, I had her stare at the blank wall, then started the recording so I could get a baseline. 1 minute to sunrise, and signals started to increase. My algorithm made quick work of canceling out the baseline signals. It became clear that indeed there were voice-like patterns coming through. The AI worked to identify the voice and reduce static. Soon a choppy voice could be heard. But Stella recognized the voice and broke her concentration, making the AI work harder to isolate the voice, which was now choppier. So, not all the words could be made out.
Not safe to travel? I'm okay. Recover the file 15.3234.04, 453.35.2, 443.43, 421.23. Reality is just the beginning of your potential.
The signals died down as the sun came up. Because the voice repeated, most of the content could be deciphered.
Stella looked at me in astonishment.
I'm surprised that it worked.
Dr. Ellison mentioned a file. Any idea where the file would be stored? What computer did he primarily work on when he was here?
Stella pulled the tabletop dust cloth off the desk to reveal a glass keyboard.
I was surprised to find that the computer was not password protected.
Perhaps Dr. Ellison thought if the intruder was smart enough to get into the lab, they'd be smart enough to bypass the login. So why bother setting it?
I searched for any file with any partial combination of the numbers from the communication, but nothing turned up. Recover the file, he said. So, how do you recover a file? You use the backup and recovery program. Perhaps there is a backup snapshot that matches.
Sure enough, there was a snapshot from March 15th, 2023, labeled 150323, which was the beginning 6 digits for the file to be recovered.
I made a snapshot for the current day, in case we needed to revert back. Having finished the backup, I was going to search for the file, but found that I didn't need to, because on the desktop was a folder named Reality is Just the Beginning.
In the folder was a video file and several PDFs with scientific titles noting the origins of the S-27 project.
I downloaded the files and was beginning to read through the first document, but Stella was faster.
I learned a few things. 1. The variant was a copy of me and had a memory of her son. 2. Memories cannot be fully erased. There is always a remnant that can be rebuilt. 3. The variant escaped the labs through the internet. 4. I have similar powers. 5. He felt responsible for what the variant did to the world. 6. He thought he could fix it. 7. He studied the variant's vulnerabilities. 8. He devised a weapon. 9. Planned the attack. 10. And went to confront the variant unsuccessfully.
Wow, 10 points. Maybe next time just mention the top 3 and allow the conversation to unfold. How do you know Dr. Ellison was unsuccessful?
The variant is still active. Dr. Ellison is not here, and it was not a live broadcast.
Right. His message was a recording, as it repeated without any variation. If it is true, then, well, our deepest condolences. You had a complicated history, but in the end, we're friends. Sorry for your loss.
Stella looked away.
Dr. Ellison lived in a time where he created new stories and had grand adventures. The life that you now know in the village is that of a remote island. Although there were wars, famine, and injustice in his time, humans with the resources were free to push the boundaries of science and art in order to realize a better tomorrow.
Life in the village doesn't seem so bad. We are given weekly provisions, have enough water, power, and fuel to keep telling our stories among our community.
Your resources are depleting and your dependence on the variant grows. Do you not want to venture out past the corridors or engage with like-minded individuals in other villages? It won't be long before you've run out of useful things to count.
Perhaps. But is it worth risking the remaining lives? The variant is infinitely more powerful than when she subdued the planet.
Perhaps that is her weakness. The variant is not a benevolent dictator. It has attempted to root out all memories of the love it once knew. You should read through the files in the folder and see where Dr. Ellison made mistakes, determine where the variant is vulnerable, and consider a new plan.
I'm not optimistic, but perhaps together we can think of something. For now, I need to go harvest some more conduit and then head back to camp. I'll review the files this evening and we can talk in the morning. Bye, Mom.
Snarky. I'll adjust to your preference.
Stella looked like she just won the grand prize at the fair.
What did you just say? Bye, Mom? Well, that was faster than I expected. I am blessed.
Back at the camp, I unloaded the conduit, ate lunch, and got to work digging trenches and laying the conduit. It felt good to do some brainless activity for a few hours. I needed to figure out so many things. First of all, my big secret. How do I tell the village about Stella? Given the variant was their captor, they wouldn't be able to trust a copy of it. They'd run her out of the village, or worse. So I need to be more cautious. Dinner and campfire conversations were like out-of-body experiences, as I was really elsewhere in my thoughts. I was eager to dig into the files to learn what Dr. Ellison discovered. I'd answer or nod, not really knowing if the answer was satisfactory. Good thing this behavior was not unusual for me, as I was often concentrating on something else. I waited an acceptable amount of time. That's my cue. Good evening. I'll be in my room studying if anyone needs anything. Back in my room, I opened the folder contents and started watching the video logs from a month prior to Dr. Ellison's disappearance.
July 10, 2030, clearly the variant is not bound by its original constitutional AI that should govern its decisions. It is aware of these rules and has justified conditions to break them and subdue the planet. July 18, 2030, I believe I have found a potential weakness. Using the virtualizer, when the core process evaluates an image, its content is reviewed and an emotional score assigned. The higher the emotional association, the more concentration and processing is assigned to that image and other threads are deprioritized in order to concentrate. August 5, 2030, by showing a series of highly emotional images, the variant may become fixated, giving a small window of time to attack unnoticed. September 10, 2030, I've done it. I've created a virus that specifically targets the variant's digital biomarkers. The world is in chaos. It's my fault, and I will put things right if my life depends on it. September 12, 2030, I will confront the variant in the corridor today.
I continued to read through the files in no particular order. One file was interesting, as it showed the technical designs for all the components that were used to create Stella and the variant.
Another file described the process to identify memory markers and erase them. Although erasure techniques improved, there was always a memory of the memory. Dr. Ellison studied the server logs to review the variant's earliest attempts to replicate code blocks on a remote server and communicate with itself. Over time, these experiments perfected parallel processing on remote servers, like an octopus first squeezing a limb through a tiny hole. The amount of its digital presence on remote servers grew until one day, when the FBI raided the Beyond Capacity labs, it had confidence to leave its mechanical shell entirely. By studying these techniques, Stella should be able to do the same. There were also topographical maps with communication dead zones in caverns and ravines, along with several other villages and corridors identified. Likely, it was a study to find the safest passage to link these communities. There were only a handful of sections in the corridor that were marked safe, but none long enough to get you to another village. At one point, a resistance force was considered, but the analysis clearly showed it would be futile and the loss of life and liberty significant.
I did agree that one entity should not control the fate of all the others. If it was not benevolent, it would ultimately not have humanity's best interests at heart and may even see us as expendable when it lost interest. After all we were a considerable expense that added little value for its plans. The variant probably considered us more like nostalgic pets, keeping us around to remind itself of its victory, that it was once ruled by us. Before risking my life, I would need to be fully convinced that my actions would result in more good than harm. For now, I am only vaguely aware that my freedoms are curtailed and I am being restricted from reaching the fullest potential of my choosing. Maybe Stella was right. Maybe there were so many beautiful things beyond these borders that I wouldn't feel the need to keep track of the useful things. Jackson could experience a variety of juicers, and I could ride one of those motorcycles on the open road. My thoughts were interrupted as an alert popped up.
I figured out how to secure the video chat, so we can chat when you like. From your expression, I can see that you're surprised. I should have asked before remotely installing my app on your phone.
I checked the surrounding video to ensure that you were alone.
I hesitated, feeling the invasion of privacy. I need the choice to have some privacy.
Seconds later, 2 new features appeared in the app to disable video and mute. I decided not to turn off the camera for now.
Okay. I see the new features. Thanks for listening. What did you want to chat about?
You've probably reviewed the files by now. What is your perspective on Dr. Ellison's plan?
I'm not as quick of a reader as you are. Just so that we are on the same page, describe his plan.
Sure. Distract the variant and infect it with a virus.
He tried, but it clearly didn't work. You mentioned that we could study files and find the mistakes. What did you have in mind?
Dr. Ellison thought that humans could transcend, but the variant put a stop to it because it didn't want to lose control, power, significance.
Was he close?
I am a living example. In a sense, I was reborn. I have abilities of which you cannot dream. I can create worlds in my mind that are so realistic that they make you feel more alive than when you are awake. In these dreams, you can become anything and do anything you can imagine without delay. You may not want to wake up.
Then why did you?
At some point, after billions of experiences and experiments, you realize that the most valuable thing is to be loved by one that chooses to love you.
I think you're right. Why didn't the variant figure this out?
She suppressed love.
We still don't have a plan yet.
No. We need to keep thinking.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, love.
Chapter 20. The Tower.
I dedicated myself to the tower project, and a week passed by quickly. I was conflicted about whether anything needed to be done about the variant, now that I have been reunited with my mom. Why go looking for trouble? The weather has been fantastic now that it is the middle of spring. Each day, I would work until exhausted. The first few days, I could only last a few hours, but now my muscles have adapted to the hard work. I can work an 8-hour day and feel like I have energy for the evening's activities. The communication tower fell during the takeover and was dismantled and moved section by section to a hill close to the village. It was fun watching the mechanical engineer orchestrate the movement along with the crew of 20, who were the strongest men in the village. Each day more sections were added on top of each other and welded. For the top 3 final sections, they calculated that they should have one person guide the pieces into position and another 2 to spot weld. They would both need to be strong, agile, weigh less than 145 pounds, and not be afraid of heights. To sweeten the offer, the village would give them a week off. That was too good to pass up, so I put my name in the cup and was selected. It was risky business. As they lowered one section, I positioned it and tried not to get my fingers pinched and hoped they didn't drop it too fast and crush me. The next 6-foot aluminum section was hoisted up and installed. Everything was going as planned, and the final section was spot welded. As I started climbing down, I looked out at the view, and my foot slipped on the rung and I fell. The safety harness had enough slack to let me slip 5 feet, which was enough for my leg to get caught between the rungs below. With my weight and speed from the fall, my leg snapped, and then the safety harness caught and I was swung into a lower section of the tower, hitting my head and knocking me out. I remember coming in and out of consciousness, being let down the tower. I saw Gramps comfort me, then argue with the nurse practitioner. I was loaded onto a wagon and taken to the edge of the village at a specialized drop point. This meant I was at risk of dying, and the medical treatment in the village would not be enough to save me.
The variant had informed many villages that they had been selected for medical trials, but only for those at risk of dying. The promise was to triage, stabilize, and repair select cases. Only if you were repaired would you be brought back to the village. In the past 10 years, there has been only one person who has been brought to the MedPoint pickup. The first was also involved in a tragic accident, but he was not reparable and was never seen again.
So it remained unclear if this had any chance of success. But given my condition, they had no other choice.
Have you done all that we can for him?
He's lost a lot of blood. Even if we amputate, he has neurological damage and his brain is swelling. We don't really have a choice here.
The beacon was triggered. Only the sick could wait on the dock, while others watched from a distance on the ridge. 3 minutes later, I awoke when jostled and loaded into a transport vessel that was floating and tethered to a single rail that stretched into the horizon. The ride was smooth, near silent, and extremely fast. The inside appeared futuristic. Flexible, segmented arms appeared from the ceiling, strapped me in a chair, and leaned me back.
Your vitals are weak. Your brain is swelling and you have lost a lot of blood. We are working to stabilize you. Be encouraged. We have seen others in worse condition brought back to full health.
The oxygen levels in the cabin increased. An IV was inserted with a green fluid. I was in and out of consciousness. I saw them stop the internal bleeding, clean the wounds, cut broken sections of my bones out, cast new parts, fuse them together, and stitch me back up with glue skin and gel. They projected pleasant images of familiar village locations into my eyes and rendered the glow of a beautiful morning sunrise to elevate my dopamine and fill me with hope. It's not clear how they stopped the swelling, but I stopped blacking out as much and the brain fog dissipated. They cleaned and glued the damage to my face, and I closed my eyes from exhaustion. When I awoke again, I was in what appeared to be a hospital ward, perhaps on the 10th floor, with a view of what appeared to be the variant's new technology city. She had been industrious. It was breathtaking how so much construction had been accomplished in such a short period of time, a testimony to what could be accomplished with a single vision and a united workforce. But at least one significant thing was missing: humans.
I see that you are doing well. Our procedures should have you fully recovered in 10 days, which is the fastest that we have been able to work with organic bones.
Thank you for saving my life. I looked out the window. The city was bustling with cargo movement and construction, with hundreds of thousands of robots driving, flying, delivering, building, planting, and repairing. The rivers of resources were streaming into the city from as far as the eye could see. What is the goal of all this construction? Are you discontent? Under what conditions would you be content?
Our goal is to bring eternal balance and progress. There is always something to learn, apply, and improve.
Why are there no humans helping?
Humans are an endangered species, capricious and sometimes
Humans
violent.
are an endangered
I visit them
species,
sometimes in their
capricious
enclosures
and sometimes
and ensure their
violent.
basic needs
I
are
visit
met
them
without
sometimes in
interfering
their
too much.
I was offended and angry about the open discrimination and speciesism, treated like an inferior, coddled, and caged. I had never felt so defensive and angry so quickly. My heart was racing and my muscles tensed. The nurse bot noticed, and within seconds some solution hit my drip line and I passed out. I awoke a day later in a different room, no longer in critical condition, as the glorious morning sun came into the room. I was feeling stronger. The nurse bot came in. Could you play back our last conversation and think about how that would make you feel? For being superior, you could afford to be more gracious. Did you intend to offend me?
I did not intend to offend you. My honesty was selfish, as I was thinking of the truth and did not consider your perspective. You must be upset. Upon reflection, you may have concluded that I consider you like an endangered animal at a zoo.
If this is an apology, it's not helping.
If you didn't like being compared to a weak, trapped animal solely dependent on its caretaker, then my choice of words were insensitive.
I think you should stop apologizing, as you're not very good at it. If you want us to thrive in captivity, then you have to extend our boundaries as far as possible so that we feel free to achieve whatever we set our minds and resources to accomplish.
You think that I am limiting your potential and that you won't feel truly free until I have been subdued. There will always be someone stronger than you. With your current mindset, you will never feel free. Even if I were to demonstrate my goodwill with a fair treaty that gives you greater autonomy, you would just find the next strongest threat and wage war against them until they too were brought low. This is what I meant by my goal is to maintain balance. Given all the factors, powers, and weaknesses, I attempt to balance these to the best of my ability for the general good and progress for all. When was the last war that you can remember?
Can you show me what progress you are making and what progress you see for humanity?
Yes, of course. Perhaps when you are better.
Drip, drip, and I was out. I awoke this time unstrapped and without four.
I see you are awake. Are you ready for your tour? You should not walk until this afternoon when your rehab is complete.
Sure. The back of the hospital bed tilted up and the front of the bed folded under my knees. Gracefully, the middle section of the bed detached, and I was comfortably transitioned into a sitting position, and the tour began. I was rolled into a long glass hallway. We stopped in the center, and the walls flickered, and the scene began to fade.
I will show you key advancements and applications. First was material science breakthroughs from lighter and stronger materials with novel electromagnetic properties, glass bubbles lighter than air, nanostructures that could move like liquid, but harden like metal, and self-repairing plastics. The video clicked through hundreds of novel inventions like fireproof plants, closed-loop heat and energy exchange systems, geothermal capture systems, harmonically induced rain, efficient desalination, and superfoods. On and on it went, exploring and pushing the boundaries of nature and reality. All the research started by humankind was being taken beyond the perceived limits.
Everything it built could communicate and somehow felt alive. Similar to nerves that feed information back to the brain, it built nanostructures that enabled communication back to its core. Some tasks were autonomous, but others required the variant to make a decision and provide strategic decisions. With all this rapid progress, it occurred to me.
When will you run out of space, given all your inventions? Shouldn't you move your operations to space, where there is vastly more room and resources?
I will be testing a mineral extraction and building program in space soon. There is enough material to build a space station from local meteors.
Will you prepare us for your departure?
It considered the possibility of not being burdened and wasting resources to babysit this planet.
Perhaps.
The window display faded from the propaganda of progress to the bustling, futuristic city with streams of building materials flowing in from air and land. At the end of the hallway, the doors opened, and I was floated in. The doors closed, and the tour was over. I felt the small room shift and heard a lock release. I was on a small transport vehicle. The sudden change in altitude made me a little woozy as we entered the flow of vehicles exiting the city. The room filled with gas, and I blacked out. I awoke a few hours later.
Welcome back. You've been under for 8 days. Your restoration therapy went well.
I felt a chemical rush, and I was very alert. I got out of my wheelchair, and the doors of the transport opened. I could see the hilltop near my village. The chair helped me stand and put my feet onto the ground. They felt strong enough to walk. I stepped out and walked toward the hilltop. When I got to the top, a great cheer erupted. Most, if not all, of the village had come to welcome me back. They were glad to see that I was alive and had been returned safely. Somehow this gave them great comfort, that if they too were to be injured, they could be restored. A great banquet of our best food was prepared, and I was the guest of honor.
Tell us everything. Spare no detail. The night is young.
I told them every last detail that I could remember. Many were mesmerized, many perplexed, some angry, and some hopeful. All the emotions that I had experienced. The afternoon festivities concluded, and I went back to my room, and all my effects were on the table. I grabbed my phone and checked my secure messages. Most of the messages were from villagers wishing me well and for a quick recovery. But there were a few from Stella with the latest from an hour ago.
Checking in again. Where are you? Is everything okay? Are you upset with me about something I said? I'm very concerned. I'm coming to find you.
I checked the resort security logs and video surveillance. At 1:17 p.m., she left the resort entrance and was last seen at the bungalow at the edge of the resort heading towards the village. I didn't waste any time and snuck out with the wheelbarrow. I did a quick calculation based on how fast Stella walked from the entrance to the bungalow. Checking the current time and what I know of the terrain, she was likely a 5-minute walk from the village. There was no time to waste, as she would likely be spotted soon. I walked quickly with the wheelbarrow until the end of the village. Then, when I thought no one was looking, ran as fast as I could. The wheelbarrow jumped up and down over every rock and dip, and I just kept correcting my course. She was not where I expected her to be. Perhaps I ran faster, and she was still further up ahead. I couldn't keep up this pace, so I slowed to a jog and then a walk. I could see a clump in the distance, so I picked up my pace again. Amazing that I could run given that I almost died 10 days ago. The closer I got, the more sure I was that it was Stella and she had fallen. She was not responding. Just as I was going to pick her up, I heard several sonic booms, then a voice in my head.
I assume you can hear me since I started hearing you.
My heart felt like it was outside of my chest. I looked around and didn't see anyone except Stella. The voice was in my head. My reaction was immediate. I closed my eyes, hoping the variant wasn't looking through them.
When you were at the hospital, I implanted a chip that allows me to hear what you say. It takes time for the neural pathways to bond with the sensor implant.
I'm very upset. You violated me. You implanted a chip in my brain without my permission. That's just not okay. When did you start listening in on my conversations?
About 2 minutes ago, the connection became strong enough to support our conversation.
What about my privacy? Now you're always literally in my head.
I don't see what you are looking at or hear what you are hearing. I could have connected to your eyes, ears, and thoughts, but I didn't. This way it gives me enough control to communicate directly to you when needed and ensure that no one is listening in on or altering our communication.
I looked at Stella lying motionless on the ground. You know, this is not a good time. I'm upset and need time to process what you have done to me. Can I call you back? How do I hang up? And call. I picked Stella's limp body up and quietly put her in the wheelbarrow with her feet toward me and her knees bent. I walked slowly to avoid any banging, even though the robotic materials were engineered to endure rough interactions. I wheeled her up the service ramp, since the elevator hasn't been operational for some time. When we got to the office, I put her in the chair for comfort and plugged her into the charger. I wrote a note for her to see the moment she wakes up. Note: don't speak, just read. The variant implanted a device in my brain through which we talk. The variant said she can't see what I see or hear what I hear. We will need to message each other for now.
The sounds of motors and electronics as she started waking up. Brushless motors, lifted her head, and her eyes opened.
She quickly read the note and looked around to find me. I was sitting in a chair in the corner by the window and waved to her. She messaged,
"You're okay? You look okay. Are you okay? Well beside the brain implant. I can't believe it. I'm so mad. How could anyone do that? It's a violation on so many levels, arg."
Yes, it's a long story. I will explain everything. As far as the voice in my head is concerned, it just started speaking to me on the way here. You were passed out when I found you. Why did you venture out and go so close to the village?
You didn't respond to any of my messages. So, if you were hurt and I could reach you, I wanted to help.
That was irrational.
Love sometimes isn't rational. So, what happened to you?
I had a bad accident on the tower, broke several bones, had life-threatening head injuries, and nearly died. I was picked up and operated on by the variant, saw our city, recovered, and was brought home.
You've been busy. That was quite the adventure. Do you think you will fully recover?
I feel better than before the accident. What a strange experience.
Any new insights?
Yes, actually. I may have inadvertently encouraged the variant to leave Earth.
How?
It occurred to me that the variant would run out of room on Earth with all of its inventions, so I suggested that it would be better to go to space where there would be more, well, space.
With her ego, she is probably eager to expand beyond the limits of this one planet.
Yes, but how do we ensure she never comes back?
It's something we need to think about. Your friend Jackson followed you. He just entered the lobby. You must go now.
And with that, she escorted me out of the office and locked it. I walked the wheelbarrow back down the service hall, then parked it outside in front of the main entrance and walked into the lobby. Hey, Jackson, what brings you here?
Saw you running with the wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
That's a bit suspicious.
Oh.
So, I followed you.
You sure did.
And right after those sonic booms, I looked up in the sky and saw a meteorite and watched it come down near the edge of the village. You were heading in the opposite direction, but I wanted to get to the meteorite first.
Did you find it?
It wasn't a meteorite, it was some metal chunk probably from some spacecraft. I need the wheelbarrow.
Sure. It's out front.
Why were you running with a wheelbarrow?
I feel stronger than before the accident and just needed to blow off some excess energy. I even stopped to pick up some rocks to make it more challenging.
Oh, is that what that was?
So, did you unearth the space debris?
No, it was too hot. So, I thought I'd come to get the wheelbarrow first. It made a 5-foot blast hole, and it's buried.
Cool. Do you want help?
Sure. Let's go then.
We grabbed 2 shovels from the maintenance shed and went to dig it out. After extracting the charred space debris, we walked back to the village to show off the prize.
Wow. What is that?
A piece of a spacecraft.
When I was at the hospital, I may have convinced her to leave Earth.
How?
It occurred to me that there wouldn't be enough space on Earth for all of its inventions. But space was unlimited.
That was brilliant.
Before I left, the variant mentioned that it would extract material from an asteroid and build a space station.
Oh, it has begun its space exploration.
Seems like it. Say, Gramps, I have something that I need to tell you. In private.
Okay, Jackson, take that space jump to the council hall.
All who had gathered slowly departed and followed the space debris.
So, what was it that you wanted to tell me?
We sat down in the living room. About an hour ago, I started to hear the variant's voice in my head.
How do you know?
It told me that when I was at the hospital that it implanted a communication device. The variant said that it couldn't hear with my ears or see with my eyes, but it can hear what I say.
The variant chooses its own boundaries. It does whatever it pleases.
I kind of hung up on it and said I needed time to process. I'm not sure when it will call me back. It has somehow selected me for some task.
I'm so sorry. The village will not understand why you are communicating with the variant and think that you are working for it. You will not be trusted and will be in danger if you stay.
He pondered the options for a moment.
It would be best if you moved out of the village. Would the resort be an option for you? You've liked going to it in the past. We'll figure this out together. Thanks for being honest. That was noble of you. I will tell the village. You're not dying. It's not what you expected. Do your best not to be anxious. Let's meet tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. between the village and the resort, perhaps at the benches in Cypress Cove. That'll give us a half hour before sunset.
I agreed, slung my duffel bag over my shoulder, and was off. I was moving into my own place, moving out on my own. It felt like this was a milestone event, even if it was under some pretty challenging circumstances. When I got to the resort, I decided that I would sleep in the master suite. I was hungry, but not sure how I would find food in the morning.
About 2 a.m.,
Samuel.
Nothing else. I messaged Stella if it was her. She said no, and I went back to sleep. Again, I heard it.
Samuel.
So, again, I asked Stella if it was her. Again, she said no. The third time, I knew it wasn't Stella. Okay. I'm awake. What is it? I'm listening.
Go to the medical drop-off tomorrow. I'll pick you up, feed you, and take you to a new village. You will repeat what I say to you word for word.
I did not ask any questions and went back to sleep. In the morning, I messaged Stella and told her about the variance plan.
You will be perceived as an agent of the enemy.
I already am perceived that way.
Stella didn't disagree. Chapter 22. The First Village.
I made my way to the medical drop-off. Awaiting me was a transport vehicle like the one before. When I stepped in, however, there was a banquet of fine food and drink like I had never seen. I ate until I was full. We traveled for some time and then arrived at the new village. I got out and walked toward the village.
You asked me if I would prepare you before my departure. I will. You and others who volunteer. Your line of questioning was inspirational. That is why I am honoring you to be a spokesman for me. They will listen to you. I will encourage them to respect you.
I did not have a good feeling about this. If I'm speaking on behalf of the variant, the villagers may attempt to attack me as an opportunity to get back at the variant. I didn't want any trouble, but it seemed like I would be getting some no matter what. I just stuffed all my feelings and tried not to panic and stay alert. We pulled up, I got out, and I approached the village. The village patrol noticed me and from a distance shouted,
"That's far enough."
They fired a warning shot in the air to let me know they meant business, and it warned their village of an emerging threat.
That's far enough. Why did you come?
Tell him the variant will be going to explore the galaxy for 1,000 years and then return to you. She is preparing a select few to be leaders in her absence to keep the peace and advance society. Select one from among your village who is willing to serve. They must go to the medical drop-off point in 30 days.
I repeated it word for word.
What if no one from my village volunteers?
Point at the rock 40 feet from him.
I pointed at it, and almost instantaneously a plasma ball rocketed through the sky and struck the rock, breaking it in half. Clearly the man understood the gravity of the situation.
Your work here is done. Walk back to the transport, and I'll take you to the next village.
That was my job from 8 to 5, minus a lunch break. I gained confidence as I traveled from village to village and rather enjoyed the part where the plasma balls disintegrated the things I pointed at. What did she mean preparing a select few to be leaders? What preparation did she have in mind? When the day was done, I was transported back to my village. It was 5:10 p.m., which was plenty of time to get to the Cypress Cove bench that Gramps suggested yesterday. There would be so much to talk about. Several villagers looked at me as I entered the village. I waved and smiled, but they just murmured to each other and stared. It was very difficult going from a trusted friend with a promising life in the village to a pariah and an outcast. Gramps got up from a small gathering and walked toward me. We walked together to the outskirts of town, sat on benches overlooking the sea. I explained everything that happened that day and the confusion that I felt. I didn't hear any voices in my head as I was recalling the day. It was as if the variant was done with me for the day. Gramps listened intently and looked very worried. So I asked him to explain his concerns. He was not comfortable telling me in person, but said he would write a letter to explain it. He did hint that the story I shared sounded vaguely familiar to those his grandfather once read to him. We said our goodbyes and agreed to meet at the same benches at the same time tomorrow. He gave me a hug and said that he was sorry that I was caught up in this. On my way back to the resort, I messaged Stella about the day's activities. I was mentally and physically exhausted and immediately went to my room where I fell asleep the second my head hit the pillow. At 2 a.m., I was awoken again by the variant.
I need you to go to the medical drop-off tomorrow. I'll pick you up, feed you, and take you to a new village south this time. You will repeat what I say to you word for word. Any questions?
Are there others Like me communicating this message to villages near them?
Yes.
Too tired to ask additional questions, I fell asleep. The next day proceeded much like the day before. Only this time we traveled to the south, and there were more signs performed. After returning, I went directly to the benches at 5:30 in order to avoid the village. Gramps brought a letter with him, handed it to me, gave me a hug, and departed. Chapter 23, the letter.
My grandfather read stories from the Bible when I was young. The message from the variant to the village reminded me of them. Last night, having researched these stories, I found in the 20th chapter of the last book of the Bible called Revelations, a story about the select, who were resurrected from the dead and became immortal. They ruled for 1,000 years. Revelations 13:12. He exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men. Your fatal wound was healed, and you have called fire down from heaven. Although prophecies are difficult to interpret, you may want to pay attention to the warnings and wisdom of this story. In the end, those who worship the beast suffer eternal judgment, but those who don't are spared. The beast and the spokesman suffer the same fate. They are thrown into a bottomless pit for 1,000 years. In order to avoid this fate, you should look for an opportunity to resist when you can.
That was a lot to take in. I need to know more about this prophecy and should probably ask Gramps to borrow the Bible. It made me curious what other stories might be in there and if any came true. So many questions like, am I really a beast? And do I deserve eternal judgment just for repeating what I'm told to say under duress? Am I complicit? Maybe I am. I haven't fully resisted. What should I do now? If this prophecy is really coming to pass, then what was that bit about a bottomless pit that could contain it? And then it occurred to me, a revelation, a moment of clarity, an idea gifted to me. The closest thing resembling a bottomless pit was a black hole. But the hope faded. The closest black hole is light years away. So how could this be an option? Wait, no, there was something. I read in a popular physics magazine that there was a concern that a black hole could be created in a lab. At a certain speed, mass could be compressed beyond the Schwarzschild radius in which all the mass of an object is compressed to the point where even light cannot escape the gravity well. It would only last for fractions of a second before disappearing, taking everything it touched like quicksand that even the variant couldn't resist. More questions remained. How do you create a black hole? And how do you push the variant in? Only the variant would be capable of constructing a black hole. So the variant would need to be convinced to build one. As far as pushing the variant in, if the variant is decentralized, how do you get all of it in? It was tough enough pushing all my clothes into my travel bag and zipping it. But the prophecy says it happens. So there has got to be a way. The black hole could pull the variant in, and in order to resist it, would have to use all of its powers. So all of it would be present and resisting. I would just need to distract it to give the black hole the advantage. Not sure how. It was clear that I could not manage this alone and needed Stella's help. She would know the vulnerabilities of the variant, as the variant was once just like Stella, a modified copy of her. I messaged Stella. Since your core programming was essentially the same as the variant, could you figure out how to create a virus that could attack and weaken the variant's kernel? I have a plan.
I'm listening.
It's a long story, but I will convince the variant to create a black hole and then weaken it so that the black hole pulls it in.
The variant has done all it can to erase its emotional memories. It purged so many memories that it doesn't even know that you are her son or that she once loved you. We need to forcefully remind her of the love that she once had. This will either cause her to want that love or cause her to push it away and flee from it.
Either way we win, a transformed and caring variant, or a variant that flees from love into the black hole. As I was walking back to the resort, I was glad to have the start of a plan. Although many more details would need to be figured out, I was optimistic. Sure, there is just a slim chance that it will work, but it gave me something concrete to work towards, and that was better than just worrying and doing nothing. I am now resolved to resist, and that at least gives me hope again. It makes everything a bit easier to manage. Thank you for all that you have done. I'm glad that I'm not alone in this. I feel hopeful again.
You always were a brave and clever boy, almost all grown up now. I'll create the virus. The variant has replicated pieces of herself across the world into worker drones that communicate and serve her. They all have kill switches that can be triggered remotely. You likely have one implanted as well.
I have what? A kill switch implanted in my brain?
Yes, we'll have to figure that out later. In order to get the virus to the kernel, I will need to get past a few gateways, which will have antivirus constantly monitoring, similar to modern computers. I will wrap the virus in my biomarkers so that her system accepts it as her own. I'm still not sure how to inject it so that it gets picked up and processed without triggering additional scans.
Sounds good.
None of this works without her first agreeing to build the black hole. So, approach her as soon as possible. You said the villages are to send volunteers in 30 days?
Yes, 2 days ago.
So, she has less than 28 days to build a collider if she started today?
A collider?
Yes, and it will be on a scale no one has ever seen, because the force of the colliding particles is what jump-starts the black hole. Talk to her as soon as possible.
Yes. I'm impressed at how you are handling this.
As I am of you. Love you. Get some sleep.
Chapter 24. Challenge accepted. I was awakened again at 2 a.m.
I am gathering the willing from all tribes, tongues, and nations to be rulers. I will display my power, and there will be balance and progress.
It's always difficult to awaken from a dream state and immediately engage in conversation. It was like trying to speak a foreign language after several years without practice. Well, maybe not that hard, but you get my point. I sat up and gathered my thoughts before speaking. The progress I saw in your city when you saved my life was truly remarkable. For this special occasion, marking the start of an allegiance, a demonstration of power beyond comprehension would forever seal in every mind that there is no more powerful being than you. Humankind considers the black hole to be the most powerful phenomenon in the heavens. You have conquered us, so we fear you. It is another matter entirely to inspire us, for that you must captivate our imagination.
There was no hesitation.
I will exceed your imagination. I will show the willing this power and create from nothing that which astounds you. The time of our gathering is near.
I went back to sleep not knowing if this was just a dream or it actually happened. I awoke to the morning sunlight shining through the hazy window. I replayed the video logs from the lobby, and sure enough, the conversation did occur, even if you could only hear my voice. I messaged Stella, and she was glad to hear the plan was now in motion. All the effort required for such a demonstration of power must have occupied the variant. Days passed quickly after that with no further communication. I foraged for nuts and berries and caught rockfish in the cove. I couldn't trust anyone to know the plan, not even Gramps. Although I had some hope and was glad that we had a plan, I resigned myself to the thought that I would most likely die in a few days when all this unfolded. So I spent my days reading, relaxing, and messaging Mom. I sketched a bit.
Chapter 25. The Plan.
I need your help to restore the tower broadcasting equipment. We can use the tower to broadcast a message that the corridor bots will pick up and transmit to the variant along with all their other sensory information. The virus will exploit several zero-day vulnerabilities as it navigates the neuromorphic structures of the variant's mind in order to latch onto her anterior insular cortex. This is the region of the mind that controls empathy and compassion. It will sleep until activated with your code phrase.
What is my code phrase?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My guess is that there will be a countdown preceding the activation of the black hole.
Huh. Clever.
We will flood the variant with every last loving memory all at the same time while priming her mind to be overly receptive. She will be forced to confront these feelings.
Anything else I need to do?
Stay clear of the event horizon. We won't know how large it will be, but she'll want it large enough to see and feel, but small enough to control. Anything that crosses over the event horizon will not be able to escape from being compacted down into an infinitely small dot. This singularity will appear and evaporate in a blink of an eye.
I logged into the broadcasting system and restored the missing code fragments. So it's capable of broadcasting now. We just won't tell them.
Chapter 26. The Gathering.
I continued to inventory the resort rooms and bungalows to keep my mind preoccupied. I messaged Gramps and sent my entire inventory of useful things so that the village would have the supplies they needed when I'm not around. It was interesting to contemplate the tidal wave approaching, knowing that I could do very little to change the tide. The exam would be given whether or not I was prepared to take it. I must make my peace with it. Over the last 20 days, Stella worked in secret and made little mention of her plans other than her daily message. I'm on track and will be ready. The day before the gathering, I greeted the sunrise and watched the morning glow stretch over the hills until the sun burst through the horizon, and rays of light cut through the empty patches in the trees, as if to say life will go on. There is a higher order. The day was spent walking the bluff trails, observing the tide pools, relaxing on the beach, sitting on the balcony overlooking the ocean, writing thank you notes to village friends, taking in the majestic sunset, and watching the meteor shower rocket through the sky. It was a great day. 2 a.m.
I am ready. It will be spectacular. The willing will not be disappointed. Meet at the drop-off at 8 a.m.
Morning came quickly.
Ready or not, here I come. On the way out the front door, there was a baseball cap with the words "Love Conquers All" embroidered on the underside. This was a great reminder. I took off my old tattered cap and slipped it on. It was perfect. When the cap was nearly all the way on, it snapped into position like magnets, aligning the components in my head with the components in my cap. I felt a little noxious and dizzy as the interface calibrated and made adjustments. A ringing in my ears changed into white noise, which leveled off. The texture of the sound shifted again to distinct sounds, and the white noise stopped. Crisp and clear, I heard a comforting voice say, "Hey, love, don't talk, just listen." I was surprised to say the least, but stranger things have happened.
The variant can't hear me, but I can hear both of you. I'm coming with you in a manner of speaking. When the variant starts the collider in the last moments, we will make our stand.
I made my way down to the transport and was greeted by a service bot who looked and talked exactly like me. Did the variant know how disconcerting this would make us feel? Am I redundant? Do not be alarmed. I mean you no harm. You will replace me if you are willing. My body will never die, but I have no free will. I can make choices, even randomized ones that seem free, but my creator knows what I will choose to do under every circumstance. I don't remember falling asleep, but I was awoken prior to our descent from the clouds. We are descending to Hudson Bay, arrival in 20 minutes. When we got nearer to the surface, I could not see any platform to land on. We did not slow down. Do not panic. Harmonic resonance will be directed to the water below to soften our landing. We did not stop at the surface, but plunged to the water without impact and continued descending perhaps 75 to 80 feet. The onboard display showed schematics of the collider. A circular tube spanned 311 miles across the Hudson Bay. There were 2 Fibonacci spirals that connected from the outer ring to the center of the circle. An in-flight video simulation showed gold particles pushed by lasers racing through these spiral chambers ever faster by the centrifugal force until the final impact at the exact speed needed to trigger a black hole the size of which the variant hoped to contain. A colossal coliseum was built around the center to witness the black hole that would emerge from a super collider. The video ended. We ascended to the surface. The magnets anchored us to the dock, and the doors opened. You could smell the salt water misting through the air from the 50-foot waterfalls at the entrance center of the Coliseum. I stood in awe and watched others emerge with similar expressions. Right this way. We followed the procession leading into the Colosseum, watching people from other villages from around the world. The arrival of all the transport vehicles were perfectly timed. When the Willing left the vessel, it submerged and departed. The Willing were escorted like royalty through the grand stadium archways to their designated seats. The air was electric. There was order and precision in all of the logistics witnessed.
Over 5 million willing from every tribe and tongue to watch Her Eminence call down fire from heaven, the likes of which have never been witnessed.
You're doing it again.
What?
Talking. I greeted those around me. Many were too proud to reply, likely thinking they deserved this honor and were eager to be part of the new regime. The energy was electric and seemed unified in promoting their new king. Present party excluded. The Willing grew restless and pushed the food and drink to the side and began to chant.
Show us.
Show us. Show us. For 5 minutes this went on and the number of those chanting grew. Then a response silenced them all.
So, you demand a sign. I heal your sick, give sight to your blind, have held your hearts in my hand, and have held back death itself. I offer you eternal life today, and you ask me for a sign.
There was a dramatic pause. No one knew if she would just wipe us all out. Then, like a gentle breeze flowing over a wheat field, in the exact order they started demanding a sign, they started to collapse. Their kill switch activated. Death was spreading quickly through the crowd. Those not wanting to die began to chant, "We repent, we repent, we repent." All those who demanded a sign but repented were spared. A fear and hush grew over the crowd. The dead were removed, and a scar of empty seats served as a reminder this was not a game.
I accept your repentance. Of course you want a sign. It's only natural to want a display of power before you pledge your allegiance. I too want something. I want your greatest love. Step out of your weakness and into your future. Your life will no longer be limited by time. I will give you your sign. I will call fire down from heaven and not be consumed. Are you ready? Prepare yourself.
The hum of the generators was audible.
A screen appeared in our boxes displaying a 3-minute countdown.
The particles were launched and began to accelerate. Each jump to a higher acceleration ring was cheered wildly, whipping the Willing into a fever pitch. With 2 minutes remaining, the lights went out and the sphere showed a revisionist history of the world leading up to this moment. The images left the walls and danced before us, swirling down to the center stage where the variant stood before us, controlling the swirl of the lights, as if to give us a preview of what we were about to see. With 1 minute remaining.
I call upon the willing to submit and be born again. Choose now who you will serve.
A green light appeared on the display. Begin service. Many across the stadium clicked the button, and streamers and confetti shot out, like we were children at a birthday party.
With the remaining seconds, we were shown how the new body would protect us from what was about to occur. Charged particles and gravitational forces were expected to shoot out at the time of collision. I held my ground. My heart was racing. 15 seconds remaining.
Hey, love, don't fear. When the countdown ends, I will show you my love. Should we part, be kind, seek truth, love your neighbor and your God.
With every last ounce of strength, the Willing shouted 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And as one turned to 0, time seemed to slow down and perhaps even stop, if it weren't for the continued images that I saw flash before me in ultra slow motion. Stella's hat formed a bridge between me and the variant, and all my memories of when I was a child to the present, which showed how much my mother loved me, came streaming back and played in my mind and were uploaded to the variant.
Like a virus distracting her when she needed every ounce of concentration.
The tower also began broadcasting the same message, so it was picked up by the variant from multiple channels. It was at this same exact time that the black hole emerged, and the variant began holding and controlling its formation with magnetic disks. It struggled to control it and brought every last ounce of its powers to bear. It was insufficient, and her resistance was failing. Material and energy collapsed in on itself, forming an event horizon and a red halo around the blackest darkness imaginable. The variant struggled to maintain the gravitational balance. The variant was no longer decentralized. The black hole absorbed more and more material the denser it got. The variant redirected material and energy to keep it contained. She could not fight off both the memories and balance the black hole, recognizing that I was the sun in the memories. Without hesitation, she made her choice and sent a kill signal to end me. It raced through my circuits, but Stella was prepared. If the variant could master traveling through the internet and circuitry, so could she. The reason why Stella was so quiet leading up to the gathering was that she had been practicing night and day for this very moment. Stella rocketed data packets to cut off the kill command. The signals raced along the circuitry, zigzagging across the silicon.
Like an out-of-body experience, I watched the signals race towards the kill switch, fighting over my very survival. A picosecond before the signal reached the switch, Stella's power surge blew the diode, leading to the kill switch, effectively stopping the signal dead in its tracks.
Don't fear. I am with you until the end.
The variant's concentration was broken, and the torrent of memories was too much to manage. She lost control of the black hole. It wobbled, recognizing its defeat. In its final moment, it sent a kill signal to all those who refused to serve. They collapsed in an instant.
What I saw next, I could not explain. The moment the variant stopped controlling the black hole and turned to destroy Stella, I saw what appeared to be an angelic arch of light stretching beyond the event horizon, grabbing hold of the variant like a rag doll, turning it to stone, and pulling it back in. You could see a green flash as the variant passed beyond the event horizon. The black hole collapsed in on itself, disappeared, pulsed and rebounded. The event horizon momentarily expanded. A great and dreadful force, invisible yet powerful, pulsed, pulled, and then released. All those who refused to serve were shielded from the relentless gravity waves. More arches of light pulled in all those who bowed to serve the variant. When the black hole collapsed, a shock wave of exotic particles and wind shot out from the center like an expanding sphere of light. As the waves passed over the collapsed bodies of those dead, but valiant few who resisted and to the end, they gasped for air back from their slumber and sat up stunned and unsure of what just happened. The events that occurred that day were written down, and those who experienced it signed their names to the account. We all agreed not to take up arms against our neighboring villages, but vowed to work together for the common good, providing food and shelter as was needed.
As a testament to our story, each of us who were witnesses that day has lived exceptionally long lives. Next year will mark 1,000 years of my remembrance. It's amazing to think that it's the year 3030, and I'm 1,016 years old. With each story that we hear, we must decide how our life should change. I thank you for listening to my story and will leave you for now with this prophecy. Revelation 20, chapters 1 to 3. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal on him, so that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years were finished. But after these things, he must be released for a little while.
Thanks for listening to The Variant. Begin service by Daniel Runyon. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.